think we're all here. Thank you. Good afternoon. I welcome everybody to our second work session of the budget cycle, and I'm Board Chair Libby Garvey, in case anybody doesn't know. And I'm joined by Vice Chair Takas Karantonis, members Matt DiFranti, Susan Cunningham, and Maureen Coffey. And today, I think we're going to start with a presentation from the Department of Technology Services. Great to see you, Mr. Lee. And I had to delay because I had to go get a pencil and paper in honor of, because that's how I still kind of sometimes do everything, and a printed script. But I do appreciate technology despite that. So I think I'm supposed to remind folks that the proposed budget and a video of the work sessions are all available on our website, www.arlingtonva.us. And you can search on FY 2025 budget information. And I think we can get started. Do I start with you, Mr. Manager, and you do the introduction?
Yeah, no, I'm just going to introduce Norrin Lee, who's our head of the Department of Technology Services, and we hope he has some material to go to. He has his entire team with him. And I'm going to turn it over to him. Over to you, Norrin.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Madam Chairman. Good afternoon, distinguished members of the board. Again, I am Norrin Lee. I am the Director of the Department of Technology Services. And slide one, we're going to go through the budget brief. So overall, Department of Technology Services mission statement, we provide excellent customer service through technology leadership and expertise in support of strategic goals and priorities of Arlington County. Through this, our goals are focused, we're looking through a lens of cybersecurity, data privacy, our countywide culture of innovation, transparency, safe and secure community, economic and environmental sustainability. Next slide. So these are the pillars of what we do. And at this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce the leadership team. And I'm going to start with calling up Laura Slavin. She is our new Deputy Director and Deputy CIO.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Laura Slavin. I think some of you at this table might recognize me. And the reason for that is because while I'm new in this role, I am not new at the county. I've been with the county for over 11 years, working in a consulting capacity. During that time, I had the opportunity to be able to deploy multiple different technology solutions for the county. I think the ones that most people recognize is the Trades Knock and, of course, Connect Arlington, the county's first municipal dark fiber network. Outside the county, I have over 20 years of experience in IT. I've worked in a variety of different industries, locally, regionally, and globally. I've worked in both the public and private sectors, and I'm extremely excited to come on board working with Arlington County. And I do hope with your help, I'm going to be able to make a very positive impact on the community. So thank you.
And you've been in the job for 7 days, right?
Sorry, what was that?
You've been in the job for 7 days?
Yes, exactly.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Next, I'd like to call up Richard Archambault.
You like to throw them right into the deep end of the pool to start, right, Mr. Lee?
Say again?
You like to throw your new employees right into the deep end of it
Yes,
just to
that's
start.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, Richard Archambault. I look after information security, privacy, and records. I usually describe that as looking after our information from when we gather it, making sure we do that respecting privacy principles. Security in the middle, the cybersecurity aspect, keeping the hackers out. And then records management in the Commonwealth of Virginia is all about how do we archive and destroy data. So I'm here to look after from birth to death and make sure we take care of our data assets. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard. Next, I'd like to call up Ms. Holly Hartel.
Hello, I'm Holly
You have to put your butt, you have to,
Yeah. you got it.
Sorry.
you're not good with technology.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Holly Hartel. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Assistant CIO for Strategic Initiatives, and my team, the Strategic Initiatives team, works with our internal department leadership as well as with other county leadership to prioritize and build momentum around the CIO's priorities. Right now, 2 of those priorities are focused on our digital strategy refresh. We have a digital strategy. We are working to try to refresh it to keep it current, and that's something that we intend to do on a more regular basis. And we are also working to try to take the information related to our projects, and we've created an internal dashboard around our projects to take that and communicate internally, and then work as we try to communicate those externally as well. I'm excited to be here, and I'm happy to work with you all as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Next, I'd like to call up Jeff Taylor.
Good afternoon, Chair Garvey, Jeff Taylor, and other board members. I look after the infrastructure and operations inside DTS, so that includes all of our networks and data centers, servers, storage, backups, as well as endpoint devices, so the devices that you folks use on a day-to-day basis. My team also looks after Connect Arlington from the top to bottom on everything from laying the fiber and the construction into pushing the data across the wires. And I'm sure you'll probably see me more in the CIP conversation in a month, because a lot of my stuff is CIP based. And I look forward to any questions or anything we can do for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Next, please, Elise Olsicki, please come up. You're fine.
Elisa Sigi. I look after the enterprise application. Enterprise application is first the ERP system, the finance, procurement, HR, and payroll system, as well as the revenue and collection system, ACE and CAP. Also, the record management system, OnBase, as well as the eGov suite of application, and Permit Arlington application. So that's the portfolio.
Thank you, Elise.
Thank you.
Next, Tracy Jewell. She's one of our newest division chiefs. 3 weeks? Yeah? No? 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks.
Good afternoon, all. It's nice to meet you. I'm Tracy Jewell, and I'm a little bit more of a veteran than Laura in that this is day 17 for me in Arlington County. That's right. I come to you from Fairfax County Public Schools, where I spent almost 20 years working in IT and doing a lot of technology support and customer experience for that organization. And so my role here will be really to look at how our internal staff, departments, are using technology and really try to make sure that we're designing those technologies and that experience to empower our departments to meet their goals and the organization to meet its goals, and then the greater community as well. So happy to be here. Looking forward to engaging with you all and learning more about the organization.
So we had an extended management team meeting this morning with all department heads, division chiefs, whatever, and I introduced Tracy as you're the customer experience manager for DTS. I asked anybody to raise their hand if they've ever had a challenge with technology. And that she's the person
hands.
to,
There were no
nobody raised their hand, which shows they're all a bunch of, fakers. But she is the person that you will see if you have any challenges. And really, it's meant to improve our customer service.
Yeah, here to listen anytime you want to talk. Thank you all.
I
Thank you,
might
Tracy.
want to talk.
I'm here.
Not right now, yep.
And the last one, I believe he's online, is David Hurley.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Hurley. I'm the head of digital innovation and cloud. I work a lot, and my team works a lot on the public website, our O365 tenant, which includes Teams, our data warehouse, our enterprise data warehouse. We work a lot with AI ML. You'll be hearing a lot from us in this coming year in the work that we're doing in that space. That started 3.5 years ago when we did our first pilot project, which was AVA, Arlington Virtual Assistant. There's a lot more coming in that exciting space, and look forward to working with you all on new technology initiatives that we have going that can benefit our employees and the community at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Okay, next slide. Okay, some of the accomplishments that we're proud of within DTS for this past year. The security tabletop exercises that all of you are participating in, we're basically sitting down, giving different cybersecurity scenarios where there was an attack, what do we do, and basically just going through our processes and walking it through in paper drill and building it out from there, more to follow on that. The Community Message Action Platform, the replacement for Grams, which is a customer service improving customer service and interaction with the public, the board, and various departments. Windows Hello, for those of you who are not familiar with Windows Hello, those who are familiar with Face ID, Chairman Garvey, I know you particularly like having an iPad and just be able to look at it. You can log in. This does the same thing on a Windows computer now.
It's nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sure it was just for me. Thank you.
Well, yeah.
I thought it connects directly with you. When you see me, you just switch on.
Well, not that good yet. We're not Star Trek, but you can look at it and it'll log you in. Also, the migration on Teams voice. So this is something that we're changing from our existing voice systems. It's ongoing, where we currently have an on-premise solution, and we're moving towards a cloud-based solution. So it's going to provide far more better resiliency to what our current solution is. The Digital Counties Award, again, we've come in first place. That's not due to me. It's not due to just the folks here. It's due to the entire team and across the different departments on being recognized as the #1 county within our population size. And last but not least is the Homeland Security Today's Local Homeland Security Team of the Year, which is a DTS and DPS CEM team collaborative effort where they were basically going through cybersecurity scenarios and getting that recognition across on a global level, where it was actually 2 of our interns, former interns, who are now employees, who were the members of our team who participated and were recognized with that. Next slide. Okay, some of the budget highlights are continuing to prioritize the need for increased cybersecurity. That hasn't changed. Operational process, optimizing those, managing our budgetary pressures, making equity a principal lens of governance, and overall, this is all feeding into improving the customer experience across. Next slide. So with a focus on equity, this just provides some of the stats some of you may be familiar with. The Wi-Fi hotspot stats haven't changed, so it's 28 outdoor spots. We do have a slide that says where those are at. 15 community centers, parks, 3 fire stations, 2 key government offices, and all 8 county libraries. Next slide. Okay. And for this one, I'm going to call up Rich and Archibald to talk towards.
All right. So this is a new metric for us following the output and outcome paradigm that we've been asked to look at. And so in the security output measures are things that track 2 different variables. One is our maturity, and that you'll see in the enhanced NCSR rating. We are asked every year by our federal partners to assess ourselves on our policies, our procedures, our ability to exercise things like we did with the tabletop, and to score ourselves. And so over time, we hope to continue to grow in preparedness, and you can see that we've done that over the years. The goal you'll see at the bottom is that DHS and CISA would like to see us at a 5 or better in all of their metrics, and we're almost there. The other 2 metrics in that section are a function of the increase in automation, both by attackers, who are very quickly throwing up new viruses, new malware, new websites, but also the automation in our defenses. So when we catch something as quickly as we do now, we end up with hundreds of millions, if not billions, of activities in an annual basis. So these numbers continue to grow as a function of how fast that automation is growing. When we look at those preparedness measures and kind of the situation we're in measures, we get to our outcomes. And so for us, we want to be responsive. We want to be able to catch security incidents quickly and have a response that is proportional. You'll see our median time to resolution is hovering around a day, and our maximum time to resolution is declining very nicely. When we started this measurement, we were at over a year, and that's a function of sometimes having security incidents where the vendor doesn't have a patch ready, and we have to wait. So that ticket sits in our system, and we wait, and we eventually get a patch, and we can close out that incident. You can see with the numbers, even now, our vendors are getting better at getting those patches out, getting software secured. So hopefully the goal here will be to continue to see that median time to resolution stay very low, and we're very responsive. And then as the industry matures, we hope to see our maximum time continue to decrease. Okay.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
And next slide, I'm going to have Gilbert talk to us. Summary of proposed changes.
Hello, board members and supervisor and Madam Chair. For the FY 2024 adopted budget, we had a $30.2 million budget that was adopted. The FY 2025 proposed budget increases by $1.2 million. That brings the total proposed budget to $31.4 million. That's an increase of about 38%. That increase also includes $1.13 million in contractual increases. Those are contractual obligations that we have just to maintain the existing services for technology for the organization. And then with that, in FY 2024, we had 91.2 FTEs that were included in the adopted budget. For FY 2025, there's a 3 FTE increase, and that brings our total FTE count to 94.0 FTEs. That's a 3.3% increase. I do want to point out that one of those FTEs that is being added is related to the CIP project for our PC replacement and laptop refreshment program. So that expense will be fully charged over to the CIP program. So there'll be no impact to our operating budget. I'll give it back to Norn.
Okay, so this is the difficult slide for me. So as many of you know, I'm a former Marine. We take care of our own, we take care of our people. So having to actually identify potential positions that we had to cut is something that's really difficult for me to process, but I understood it's necessary. So these initial ones, these are some actual positions where people are actually sitting in these positions. And to me, I mean, they're human beings. You know, they have lives, and they have impacts. With that said, we'll be able to absorb those impacts and spread that across the different divisions within the department, so there's not going to be any loss of the services that we provide or the level of service that we provide. So we will absorb that. But again, these are difficult decisions, as these are difficult times. The other eliminations we're doing is with the subscriptions and licenses, we've been able to consolidate some of that so we can have some savings there, and we're converting 5 of our existing contractors, well, advertising those roles out to make them full FTEs, where the costs compared to what they would be as a contractor as an FTE, there are going to be some savings, as you see. Next slide. And this is our final slide. This is just a recap on our focus continues to be on enhancing the customer experience, going through the different lenses of cybersecurity, service and program efficiencies, and upskilling our staff. Any questions?
I think we'll take, colleagues, it's all right, well, I think we have our commission here. Mr. Burke, would you like to come? I think for some comments, and then we'll take questions after that, if that's all right, Mr. Lee.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon. I'm John Burke, the chair of the Information Technology Advisory Commission. We sent you a letter earlier or late last week after our meeting with our overarching recommendations. I won't go through all of that again. I'll just remind ourselves that last year our recommendation for the one thing that we didn't see happening that we'd recommend to start doing was the privacy policy. Very pleased to see privacy called out in this year's budget explicitly. We understand that there's progress being made towards that. I'd remind everyone, of course, building a privacy program is not something that happens overnight. It takes time, takes investment, takes thought to do it well. So we're encouraged to see that, and we would encourage continued progress on that front. And I'll end with saying that there is a ton of stuff that DTS does very well and the county does very well in IT, and so I don't want to gloss over that fact either.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very efficient. All right, colleagues, questions for staff? I see people trying to turn on their, you know what, why don't you take the speaker one at the end of the table and see if that, because I think that one is working.
Well,
That's fine. That's fine.
It's okay. We'll trade it out
But
before.
go right ahead. Yep.
Thank you. Technology does fail us occasionally, but
Everything needs a battery.
You know, one thing that I think the public often thinks of in technology services of the county is the website, which I know is not as front of mind when we're thinking about county internal operations. Can you just describe a little bit how management of the county website occurs and kind of who has responsibility? Because I know it doesn't all really live in DTS.
Yes, that's right. So DTS provides the back end, so the platform from which the website is managed, whereas the content creators, content managers are the other departments. We're partners with CAPE on that, and if you have additional questions, I have David Hurley on the line where he can actually talk more details towards that.
Yeah, I think I'm just thinking about ways that we can be collaborative and supporting to make sure that I think every department has owned this work in a little bit of a different way, and it's resulted in varying levels of detail and things on the website. And I think to some of ITAC's recommendations, thinking about how we can more comprehensively end up with a smoother website experience, especially as people are depending more and more on the online resources and less on paper and in person, and just making sure that that's front and center is how does the normal public experience Arlington's technology services?
And that's in part why we brought on Tracy as our new customer experience officer. She's going to focus not only on the people that we have, our customers who are internal within the different departments, but obviously our constituents. What's working well for them? Where can we have opportunities to make some improvements? And again, that's going to be a collaborative effort with the other partners that we have.
That's awesome. Thank you.
If I could also add, and I don't know if David wanted to add, literally this week we are rolling out a neighborhood's set of web pages, because people were finding it difficult, and you can go there and you just type in neighborhoods on our website. Sometimes if you're living in a neighborhood or a civic association, it was really hard to navigate through the multiple levels of the website to find out something that's going on exactly in your neighborhood. So that's laid out with the name of the neighborhood, and below that are all the projects that are going on, who you need to contact if there's an issue in your neighborhood. So it's a work in progress, and since Tracy is here, we're looking for suggestions from people, but at times, we have a huge amount of information on our website. The navigation is a bit of a challenge.
And David, could you talk a little bit towards some of the enhancements we're looking at exploring for better navigating the website for our constituents?
Yep, definitely can. So we're launching next week enhanced AI-enabled document search. That will include all the board minutes dating back to 1932, all the county code, all the property cards. We will ultimately extend that out into contracts, and ultimately into all the documents that are actually on the public website, which number over 15,000. What long-term we're going to do as part of our overall AI program is actually create a generative AI experience, also known as a chatbot, that you'll be able to interact with those documents. And that's something we've been actively working on and was always as part of the roadmap of AVA, Arlington Virtual Assistant. So we've done a lot of work that can lead up to a better experience to get people to their information better in a more conversational or human interaction. And that's what AI allows us to do. So those programs are actually active, and looking forward to trying and demo those to folks in the departments and to the public. We're very excited about the technology.
Thank you, David.
Yep.
Right, okay. Mr. Karantonis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Congratulations to all newcomers to this department and also those who have been serving for a long time. First and foremost, I want to ask you one thing, because it's always about, you're absolutely right, it's always about people, right? So the reductions in FTEs, these are not layoffs, I guess these are reductions like, somebody anticipated retirement, et cetera.
Two of them are eligible for retirement.
And the third one? Or was it the third one?
The third one's
I think there are
no, it's
two.
only two. The
There are
other
two.
one's a
Sorry.
contractor.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is just a contract that we are not going to renew.
Yes, but it still has an impact because that's one of our most
course.
customer-facing teams.
I understand. One thing that I wanted to ask you, there are several issues, but there is a measure that says under modernized critical measures, number of households served by digital equity. And fiscal year 24, I mean, this has been going up since fiscal year 2020 when, this measure tracks. So started at 80 households, 23 was at 898, by the way, in During the pandemic, it was somewhere between 600 and 329. And now we are projecting 2,233, and so for next year. How do I interpret that? So where are these households? How do we serve them? What is the plan there? There's a significant increase in the performance measure, which I applaud. I just need to know more about what the secret sauce is, how we do that.
It looks like it's bar crafted.
Yes, I know.
I see.
It's all
Holly, could you come up, please?
You're on.
Make sure I'm on. Okay, thank you. What that's related to is what we consider something served. So we're working very closely with CPHD, as you know, related to this. And it's what are the efforts that we're involved in that we are serving some type of role in providing internet access. So the consideration of Barcroft, which is coming through, as well as the Marbella are two of the ones that helped increase it. So those are direct connections that we're trying to do something with to help make sure that they have access.
That's excellent. And I was actually looking forward to this response, because to me, this is literally very critical. It's not just a performance measure. This is a strategic objective.
Absolutely.
By itself, right? So I would like to follow up with you on what this takes. What does it take? What is the appropriate structure? We had a broadband study. We figured out that our county is not very equally served by accessibility to quality internet services. So I see this here as a significant qualitative step forward and higher. So I want to understand what it takes, which leads me to the next one, very, very short, Madam Chair. On Connect Arlington, I understand that we'll have a CIP discussion of that. But what exactly does it take to maintain Connect Arlington? What is the current status of maintenance needs, not capital investment needs?
That I'm going to turn over to Jeff, if that's okay. The hot seat here.
While Jeff is coming up, I did want to speak to the digital equity task force we had in the report. I've been briefed on the final set of materials on that. It'll be coming to you in a few weeks.
Okay.
We have a set of material on that. And one thing I would say is that the gaps that were found during that study are not so much on how we govern the provision of services, but that there are places in the county where where people cannot afford to get the broadband service that they need. So I've asked staff to go back and look at the funds that we were receiving from JBG Smith, if you remember, down in National Landing, where we gave them access to fiber. There's a few $1 million that they paid into that. So we're working on some options to come back to you. That's not included in the proposed budget, but it will be coming fairly soon. So I wanted to let you know that you'll be getting material on that.
That's encouraging to hear. Thank you. So what does it take to keep Connect Arlington operating?
Sure. So we have a Connect Arlington staff of 4 individuals that are working on maintaining and modernizing and expanding Connect Arlington to reach new county facilities when appropriate. So those folks are also dealing with all of the failures of Connect Arlington, which happen when, say, a backhoe hits fiber in the ground, or wind knocks a wire off of a telephone utility pole. And we are serving constituents 24 hours a day when these things go down, because they are supporting all of our fire stations, libraries, right? There's something like 75 county facilities and all of the APS facilities, and 300 some traffic signals. So there's a lot of breaks that happen over the course of a year. In terms of the actual fiber, we're looking at a lifespan of 40 to 60 years. We don't kind of know exactly yet how long it's going to take before it starts to fail, so that we're not going back and replacing fiber that's already there unless it's broken.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I yield to you. There are many other things that the Commission has raised, et cetera, but we will talk about that
At another time. All right, Mr. DiFranti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the website, I would be interested in a staff briefing or conversation, doesn't have to be long, about the performance measures eventually, once Tracy, for what, what would constitute okay, great. So that would be great if we, and it doesn't have to be rushed, but in the next like 3 months, I'd love what are the right performance measures? Because we often get complaints and you want to channel those into, because it could be the content creators or it could be lots of different factors. On digital equity, I really appreciate you, Mr. Manager, sharing that, and I'll be interested in looking forward to that. Question on the senior network engineer position. Can you describe that a little bit? Is there any or no overlap with the chief enterprise architect or the technology manager position? It may be totally different, but
It is totally different, sir.
Okay.
So it's 2 different skill sets or 3 different skill sets.
Yeah.
Whereas like the chief architect is focusing on overall architectural strategy, whereas the senior network engineer is a senior individual who's familiar with the different networking devices that we have in place, how to set up those different networks as far as on the infrastructure team, and that individual will be reporting to Jeff on that role. Is there a specific question you had about the position?
no, when we're adding a position, I'd like to have a little sense that in my non-technology brain that kind of, leads to it. And so the various networks that could be remote and that could be different systems that we have, different programs that we have, is both would fall under this position. Is that fair?
Yes, anything where it's dealing with the infrastructure. And part of the concern that we have is it's a smaller team that is managing all this, whether they're updating the systems, they're updating the firmware, there's an outage, and they're the ones who are addressing that. And that small team needs a little bit of a break. They need to have additional staff on that. So this individual is going to help augment that staff to prevent the burnout.
Fully persuasive, even though I'm not sure that I would be able to articulate it in a way that, but I really appreciate small teams to prevent emergencies like that. Thanks for the explanation. That really helps. Thanks.
Ms. Cunningham.
So we talked a little bit about the website and kind of accessing documents and navigating. Can you talk a little bit about our approach to customer service for those who have inquiries or have interactions with the county, whether it be by phone or by report a problem or just something to that extent? How are we doing as a customer service community, and what can we do better? What technology investments might support us, both on the phone response and on ticket response?
So I can have David talk a little bit towards some of the enhancements we're trying to implement for that. As far as the direct involvement in tracking what the customers are experiencing, Tracy's going to get involved with that as she gets more acclimated into her role. And we'll be working with that in partnership with some of our partners in Cape.
And do we have any reporting on that now in terms of, phone calls returned within so many hours?
I don't have those specifics within my department.
Let me add one thing on that, and this is only part of your question, which specifically on the Report a Problem app. So Kevin Connolly from my office and Caitlin Thomas, one of the things they are looking at, and it's been probably taken too long, is a number of county departments use Report a Problem, but not all of them. So what happens is when someone submits a question to Report a Problem, if that department is not connected to the Report a Problem protocols, it ends up taking longer and it goes outside. So we are slowly bringing everybody in, especially the inspection services and CPHD, which have traditionally not been included in that. And so we will have, one of the things we're doing as we bring them in, we will have metrics on that. But I'd have to say that the biggest number of, we can send you information on this. The biggest number of inquiries we tend to get are on missed trash pickups and utility questions. And that is done out of my office, not out of DTS, but we do have customer service metrics on that, so I can get some information to the board separately on that. But I know David may have more to add.
Yes, and David, if you're on the call still, could you please again talk towards some of the enhancements that we're looking at?
Certainly. So recently enhancements, let me just touch on ADA compliance. We've added, if you look on the front left-hand corner of the public website, there's a ADA enhancement. We've added that in there. On top of previously mentioned content work that is just ongoing, public website needs a lot of care and feeding, especially on the content side. And we're working extensively with CAPE and the departments on that. From a purely technical point of view, one of the biggest things that we're looking at doing, as I mentioned before, was AVA 2.0. And AVA originally was only meant for DES on a couple of limited pages, and for us to get to put our toe in the water with AI, and this was 3.5 years ago, and the world has completely changed in the last year, where the technology has drastically improved, that we could improve our results and our responses. The vision always has been for AVA to ultimately tie into our phone system, and since we're in the middle of our phone conversion into Teams, what we're looking at doing is our omni-channel approach, which is bot, human chat, and phone. And we're laying that groundwork not only with our bot frameworks and the bots that we're going to be developing, not with just AVA, but other bots that the departments have expressed that they are interested in pursuing. But how do we tie all those together? And then we tie that back into our phone system. So a lot of the fundamental pieces of technology are there to improve our overall customer interaction, gauge our sentiment analysis, and that's a big piece that we're going to be looking at going forward, especially with bots, is are these responses right? Are people getting the right answers? If they're not, how do we change the data through the technical platforms that we have? And these are things that are relatively around the corner, that are in progress or in development progress, that we've worked extensively with folks across the county on, based on the feedback that we've received.
And I did want to add one other thing. AVA, which is, I think, a clever name for Arlington Virtual Assistant, and then I think DES has DESI. I mean, we have lots of these AI functions. But the question I think that you had asked, which is when someone reaches out to the county with a question, what do they get back? If they get back silence, that's horrible. So we're moving to, and I know the chair and I have had this conversation, at least acknowledging that something has been sent. Mm-hmm. And then what we're trying to do is follow up with a soft response up front when we don't have the substantive answer within probably 48 hours, saying we're working on the issue. But we have a long way to go with that and bring that across the organization. I hear from many people who get frustrated. I send a question in to report a problem and I'm told it's been handled. When by being handled, it means that one department has given it to another department. And so we have some ways to go on that. That is much more of a function out of my office. And so actually, you might want to convene a special work session with Kevin Connolly for about 5 or 6 hours. I'm sure he would welcome that. But he's been doing a lot of work on that since he came to my office. But we'll follow up with details on that.
Okay, great. And I think it's a place where I would just invite our technology team to continue to discuss, because I think there are some solutions. And part of the challenge, obviously, in any organization, but especially a governmental organization, is whenever someone else gets better at it, then you look worse, right? So I think we're in a place where expectations have really leapfrogged, and we have not yet met those expectations. I think it's really, really important to our residents that we do better. So I think it's going to be all hands on deck there. To that same point of all hands on deck, I know that you all have this budget that we are looking at, but I know each department also has some spending on technology, and certainly our partners at APS have some spending on technology. How do you and your team, with the expertise that you bring, look across all of that and look for efficiencies and support each other?
So you're correct. There are different pockets of information technology professionals spread across the different departments, so it's more of a decentralized model. There are some opportunities for us to increase those partnerships. We do have an organization, or a working group, if you will. They're known as the G10, where you have the senior technology professionals in each department, where they meet monthly and discuss what are some of the projects and programs they're working on, where can we gain some economies of scale, sharing best practices along those lines. But we still have a ways to go, but we're moving in the right direction.
And is Arlington Public Schools part of that? Are public schools part of that?
They are not directly. We do have separate engagements with Arlington County Public Schools. Raj, the CIO over there, I engage with him usually on a quarterly basis.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I'm chair, and also I think I'm chief worrier. That seems to be my role. So we've got all of this information in the cloud where everything's electronic, which is great. So what happens if the power goes out or something? I mean, are we really, can we really keep functioning? I'm assuming we can, and I ask this question almost every year, and I get an answer that I then kind of don't maybe totally understand and forget, if I could be honest.
So, yes, but we're working towards ensuring we have the functions in place, for example, the tabletop exercises. So it's a continuous process of improvement, where we're seeing where we are, where are some opportunities so we can make better processes, we can get better improvements so we can be more resilient. Some of that is moving a lot of our applications and a lot of the service we provide into the cloud, where we have that cloud resiliency. Other opportunities that we're going to recognize is just continue to improve upon some of these.
Could the cloud go down?
I'm sorry?
Could the cloud go down? This shows my ignorance. Could there be a time where we can't get to the cloud?
I mean, anything's possible. It's technology. It's not 100% foolproof in any environment.
Yeah, okay. Just sort of something to think about. Every now and then, there's a reason I still use the paper and pencil. I mean, it's really to have the redundancy idea. But I'll probably just keep worrying because I do, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Presumably it's as secure as we can make it at the moment, is what I'm hearing, but that does worry me. Okay, I think no more other questions. One more, Mr. Karantonis?
Just one, it's under the rubric of worries. So there is a growing concern. I read a lot about that, and I read more about that. We are contracting a lot of services with one provider, that's Microsoft, right?
Correct.
This is also a leading company in AI, especially generative AI. And there is concern about how, what is their access to our data to train their AI models. So is that something that should be of concern for us?
No, so we will have when we do get to that point, our stuff will be sandboxed, so it'll be contained within the county. And David, can you talk to that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I would say our data is already sandboxed from that because of our investment in our enterprise data warehouse that is hosted
Could you
in the
describe
cloud.
what sandboxed means just a little bit more?
Segregated.
Basically, sandbox basically means it's cordoned off from the public. It's been secured. It's been reviewed extensively for security, and rights and privileges are based on need. It kind of, from a high level point of view, that's how we secure our cloud infrastructure is based off of need internally. In terms of addressing, large cloud providers using our data, we've worked extensively with multiple cloud providers that we have because we're a multi-cloud situation here in Arlington for a reason. We want the best of all worlds from different cloud providers. In the case of one of the providers that you mentioned, we tried to work to address that concern of is our data being used for some large LLM, large language model? And the answer is no. We own our data. That data is for us to use, and the privacy and security around that is something that, in that particular vendor's case, that they take a lot of pride and have shown us how that data would be secured and not used for other uses. That is ours. That's how they operate. Going a step beyond that, that's why we also created our data warehouse, to be able to create LLMs and use AI in a safe environment that we control. So there's multiple layers here of what we've been working on and to address concerns like that.
Okay, thank you. I will probably follow up on that.
Yep.
I mean, this is also in conjunction to the issues on data privacy and data privacy policy that the Commission, the ITAC has raised. I think these are valuable points to check on. They also cost a lot of money, so they're and I was in Arlington, Texas, Mr. Manager, and they have trained a skill on Alexa, Amazon's Alexa, to that answers the question, when is my trash going to be picked up next? And Alexa responds. Don't know why it's not only Alexa, or maybe it is, but it was interesting to me.
Yeah, so Alexa and Ava need to get together. Maureen.
Back to me.
Excuse me, Ms. Coffey. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. One of Ms. Cunningham's questions brought up something for me, which is, when other departments, if they go into procurement for some sort of systems or IT need, how does DTS interface with that? Are they able to do an RFP on their own? Do you come in and say, hey, actually, we have this other thing that like could work for you as well? You know, what does that look like right now?
So there is a review process in place, particularly when an RFP is coming out. A lot of our staff gets involved with those RFPs. They'll review them so we can go ahead and look at it from a technology perspective as far as like, interfacing with the existing systems. So we do have processes in place. They're not perfect, but you know, we're always, like I said, we're always on a continuous improvement.
We also, all the procurements have to go through the Department of Management and Finance and through our procurement shop there. So we have an eye out to make sure that there's no rogue actors in the county, or that they can take advantage. We're a big organization. Sometimes people will go out to try to procure a system and they haven't done their due diligence to see if we have it somewhere else.
And that's kind of more what I was thinking, right, is like the economies of scale sometimes where rather than investing in a new software that does a variation on something we already do, if we can just expand a contract that we already have.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Ms. Cunningham.
I had forgotten to ask a question that our commission has raised a few times, which is, should technology be a comprehensive plan element? Why or why not?
So Holly, could you come back up, please? There are some efforts we are doing, collaborative efforts, where getting some changes or adding to, as they're reviewing the comprehensive plan. And Holly, I'll have you tack on that a little bit more.
Press the button.
You're good. I apologize. So we have our own digital strategy, right? So that is something that we have been focusing on, understanding that the comprehensive plan, the way that it's structured in Virginia, is focusing on broadband services, but there is an opportunity to consider technology broadly. So there is discussion that is happening of what would it look like if it was part of a comprehensive, would it be its own element, or would it be more appropriate to be broadly across all of the different activities that are happening?
Thank you, Holly.
So we'll know by 2030? No. Is it just kind of an ongoing conversation? And
Yes.
When is the digital strategy coming out?
So again, we have a digital
It's
strategy
just
for the
refined.
department. We don't have one as the scale of the comprehensive plan, but we're still having those ongoing discussions.
Yeah, this is something where I may have a difference of view from a lot of people who bring up the suggestion about adding this as an element to our comp plan. As you'll find out with CPHD when you have their work session, they're doing a review of the comp plan. The comp plan at this point has 15 elements to it, and adding a 16th element to it at a certain point, I feel like, you know, and there's been the question about adding schools and other kinds of elements to the comp plan. The comp plan itself becomes so unwieldy with so much material in it. I think using the digital strategies plan as an approach, and we'll brief the board on that to see how that interacts with all the other elements, maybe the place to start before we talk about adding another element to the comp plan. Many people believe, and I'm not one of them, that adding an element to the comp plan somehow makes it that it's a sacrosanct item that we'll never ignore. And so the challenge we have with a lot of elements of our comp plan, is you and I have talked about, is we make a lot of promises in our comp plan, and sometimes we can't realize them. So for me, it's much more important that we have that conversation. I wouldn't foreclose it, but for me, it's not, you know, a panacea. I feel better now.
All right, good. I think we all feel better. Thank you so very much. Great to see you. Great to see you all.
Thank you all.
Great to see your team. And to all the new folks, welcome. Can't wait to make those phone calls about the customer experience. And I think we'll bring up our Arlington Economic Development is next. Mr. Toohill, I think you must be here somewhere. You're going to get the worry baton. You're going to get the worry baton.
Change. You're good, whatever you like. Bill Clinton, too.
All right, we need to get more serious here.
So, Madam Chair, I'm going to introduce Ryan Toohill, our Director of Economic Development, and I know he has only 700 slides to go through, so I want to make sure he has enough time, and then we'll also move on to our economic development partners. So over to you, Mr.
Great,
Toohill.
we're hoping not, we have a few other things to do too, but that's fine. I'm sure you'll be
We'll
good.
move through quickly,
Thank
I
you.
promise.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us again. It's been a great and exciting year in economic development. Before I begin, I'll just call out our leadership team. I'm not going to have everyone come up. You're going to hear from most folks tonight in some form or capacity. At the table here, we have our Deputy Director, Kate Angie, and our Director of Operations, Ifeanyi Banga. In the audience, we have Mark McCauley with Real Estate, Michael Stiefvater with Business Investment, Tara Palacios with BizLaunch, Emily Cassell with Arlington Visitors and Convention Services, Michelle Isabel Stark with Cultural Affairs, and Kelly Reinfuse is not able to, she's our Director of Communications, was not able to come today. She's dealing with a family matter. So we also have all of our strategic partners who you'll hear from tonight. So we can actually go to the next slide, please, and the next one. And we're moving right along. So just
That's good speed, that's good.
just as a reminder, since this is a public meeting, we like to kind of remind folks of the purpose of economic development. With 30% of our local tax revenue coming from business activity, economic development plays a big role in our fiscal health here in the county. And by expanding the tax base through encouraging business activity, we are able to give you an alternative to raising taxes or cutting services when you work to balance the budget. We also are continuously focusing on economic opportunity for all across Arlington. That's something that we have been building into our strategic plan, which you'll hear about tonight, and we're really excited on some of the initiatives in that area. And we'll go to the next slide, please. A healthy business community is really essential to our economic prosperity and in maintaining our exceptional quality of life. And we'd like to thank the board for the significant increase to our budget this fiscal year for a lot of the programs and initiatives that we were able to put into place. We're yielding positive results, and you're going to hear about that tonight from our staff. We also are facing complex problems, or continue to face complex problems. So partnership continues to be key to our economic growth efforts. Everyone in this room plays a role in economic development, and you're going to hear from a bunch of our partners tonight. And then finally, we continue to strive for inclusive economic development. Over the past year, we've been doing a lot to expand our outreach efforts. I've toured neighborhoods, we've held focus groups, we're meeting with arts users, and the list goes on. So we're really working to make sure that we're touching all areas of the county and all levels of the economy. And we're continuing to include the county's DE&I principles and racial equity principles in our work. So we can go to the next slide. Before we talk about challenges, let's always talk about the good news and some bright spots that we'd like to celebrate in 2023. 2% unemployment rate and an 80% labor participation rate is really great. And we're still seeing strong job growth in Arlington, over 5,500 jobs added last year. Economic development plays a role. We had I think over 550 job announcements or retained jobs last year through projects we directly worked on. That's about 10% of total growth, which is great. We're continuing to see retail sales and meal tax revenue increases, a good indicator of consumer spending. And while some of that's inflation and higher prices, it's also an indication that for the past 2 years, people have been spending money in the county, in our shops and our restaurants and our small businesses. Tourism continues to be a bright spot with 9%. We're up 9% on hotel occupancy, and Emily's going to talk through a number of other indicators. But we're seeing strong growth predominantly in leisure and group travel. Through the small business development or small business center BizLaunch, we're seeing an increase in consultations from entrepreneurs. We're up 16.5% in 2023. That's just folks coming to us saying, hey, I have an idea, I want to start a business or expand a business. So that's really an indicator that we have a strong small business community. And finally, multifamily development delivered over 2,000 new multifamily units last year, which is above our historic average, and we have a strong pipeline. So good things happening in addition to just, I think when we're out in the community, we're seeing energy, we're seeing the vibrancy come back, and there's certainly a lot of intellectual capital and innovation happening in Arlington. So let's switch over now and talk about some of our challenges. We continue to, the top of mind for us continues to be the office market. We're experiencing elevated vacancy and disruptions in the market due to high interest rates, and those things are continuing to have impact on office values. The key here is working on things that we control. And so we are working through our commercial market resiliency effort, which is making progress. We brought our first RTA to the board this past month. And that's really a way for us to remove regulatory barriers to allow for market solutions. And that's something, again, that's within our control. But we're also doing things on the demand side to drive new businesses and more people back to our business districts. And so you'll hear about more of those activities tonight. But I just want to what we're trying to make sure we explain here to you and the community is that for every challenge we have, we're trying to find a solution or some kind of program to help move the needle back in the positive direction. So you see up on the screen, we're still working hard to figure out with partners how to build a stronger tech talent pipeline. We're still working with our hospitality and small businesses and so on. So we really are focused. And then one last thing that we'll mention that came out of our strategic plan process and some of the research we did is we collected some really interesting data that showed that we still have some economic disparities in the county. Things like household income comparisons between white residents and residents of color. So we've been starting to build into our strategic plan, and Kate will speak more about this. How do we address some of those issues in addition to just doing kind of the traditional work of economic development? So we'll go to the next slide, please. In terms of just to give you all an update on what we've been up to since I joined, we've been really working on strategic alignment and really trying to align our department around a new vision, mission, and values. We've, as I mentioned, had our strategic plan process, which will deliver our plan this month. And we want to thank some of you last year who participated in those focus groups and interviews with our consultants. We've also been doing department assessments and division assessments, kind of digging into areas that we're hearing we might not be working as optimally. And so we're doing deep dives into divisions with the help of our leadership team to kind of figure out how can we perform better, how can we find efficiencies. And all of that is working towards our strategic plan implementation. And just, I guess what we're trying to convey most of all is that this is how we're going to be making decisions at AED going forward. We're going to be aligning with our plans. We're going to be continually assessing our performance. So that way, when we come to you and talk about our budget or resource needs, you know that they're grounded in long-term planning. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Kate, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about our strategic plan.
Good afternoon. So our strategic plan, it's exciting because if we go to the next slide, we really coalesce around 5 key goals. And what this represents is a lot of outreach with the community, focus groups, as well as some analysis that benchmarked Arlington against peer cities across the country. And we ended up with all in on business investment, and that's really about continuing to attract and retain and grow our businesses here locally. We want the next CoStar to come online, and so that's going to continue to be a key focus. We also are all in on our thriving commercial areas, and this really has to do with continuing to make places like Roslyn and Ballston and National Landing thrive, both through CMRI initiatives, but also through placemaking and partnering with our partners at the BIDs and other partners. All in on tech. This is really saying that we have a wide spectrum of things to pursue as economic developers, but here in Arlington, tech is a real core industry of ours. So we're going to even hone in more sharply on some industry clusters that we'll really be focusing on, and not only look at job growth and retention in tech, but also pay attention to the workforce. How are we building the tech pipeline coming down the road? Small business. Our small businesses represent, I think, 96% of the businesses in the county. We need to continue to support them. But what we also see in our small business cohort is that's where a lot of our legacy entrepreneurs of color live, and they need extra help sometimes. So we've got some programs and initiatives really focused on that, as Ryan mentioned. And then lastly is our global arts and culture. You know, Arlington is a place that's a destination internationally, and we want to continue to bolster that. So looking at arts and culture as both a tourism strategy, but also a placemaking strategy to support a lot of the kind of, you know, all in on thriving commercial areas. What's nice about the strategic plan is that it doesn't present a whole lot of new ideas that we need to start, you know, pushing forward. About 80% of it we're already doing. But we do have some new things. One of them is a business line through our business investment group to look at international business development. Can we attract some new international companies to come to Arlington? Another, as an example, is again that focus in workforce development on our target industry clusters. So we're really excited about this, but as Ryan said, when we come back to you, we're always going to use this as our kind of strategic direction so we can benchmark ourselves against this moving ahead. With that will come new measures. The next slide just is an example of the direction we want to start going in, which is to make sure for each of these goals, we've got some really impactful measures that we can say, hey, we're really moving the needle here on this goal. One of them in business success, we want to focus on jobs created in the industry clusters that we're targeting. So that'll be something new on the horizon we hope to do. For the thriving commercial areas, yes, we track occupancy rates, but we may need to start tracking redevelopment as something that we may have a hand in and can help support. In tech sector, it's not only about the pipeline, but the VC community, venture capital dollars coming to Arlington. You know, we're talking with those folks on a regular basis, so can we start tracking that? With small business, we really want to look at our minority and legacy business retention and growth statistics and see if we can continue to help and bolster that. And then obviously with our global arts and culture, tourism-related revenue growth, and just how are our arts enterprises faring in the county overall. So these are kind of our future metrics and outcomes, but what are we currently measuring? We've got two examples today, and one of them is from our business investment group. And this is where we really can track how are the day-to-day activities of our team actually creating impact and outcomes. And so we look at things like the amount of square footage that gets leased because the AED team met with somebody and closed a deal. So these are the measures that we currently have, and Michael can kind of speak to these in more detail. But this is just kind of one set of what we like to call now outcome measures that we're going to continue to focus on, but also probably start tweaking as we move forward. And then the second example is from our convention and visitor service team. And this is where we've gotten really sophisticated because of the All in Arlington brand. We've been able to actually start tracking when somebody sees something on a website and they click on it, we know if that took them to our website and if they then booked a hotel. So we've got stats on that kind of performance, if you will, and we want to continue to do that moving forward. So again, these outcome measures, our team gets it, that that's what we need to start focusing on. These are examples of what we're currently doing, and we hope to do more. Lastly, I want to talk about equity in all we do. As Ryan mentioned, so I've only been on board about 6 months, and I think the most exciting thing I did within the first month was go to our racial equity action team meeting. So this is a group of, in our department that actually puts on programs to really help us move the needle on equity and applying an equity lens to all we do. We recently went through the process and the consultant said we're getting close to being a truly committed institution. So that was exciting news. But as we've mentioned, our small business group, we're doing a lot of programming and partnering to really lift up our entrepreneurs of color and women-owned businesses and entrepreneurs. Our real estate investment group or our real estate development group is actually still working on a lot of affordable housing initiatives. So we partner with housing and CPHD to get those deals done. We also look at arts and cultural programming so that it's really reflective of the communities that it serves, and we think about equity on that front. Tours and promotion, we had an exciting kind of initiative this year where we actually built out on our website to promote some of our more culturally significant African-American assets in the community. So when people come to visit, we're highlighting those. And then ultimately, our strategic plan, as Ryan said, has equity embedded in a lot of its goals. So with that, I think I'm turning it back over to Brian.
Yeah, we're going to do something a little different this year. Rather than have every division explain what they do, I think all of you have a good sense of that. We're just going to talk through some of our key investments this year, what you've been able to provide us and how that funding is being utilized. So I think we're going to start with Michael Stiefvater with business investment. So come on up, Michael.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Ryan said, Michael Stiefvater, Director of the Business Investment Group. Nice to be here. So I'm going to talk about two slides. First is an exciting program that we launched in FY24, the Arlington Innovation Fund. And second is our big success of the year to date, CoStar Group's relocation from DC to Roslyn. So first off, I just want to thank the County Board really for supporting the Innovation Fund in last year's budget. As you all well know, you appropriated $1 million to launch this new initiative. And really today, I just want to reinforce kind of what we've accomplished so far and what we hope to do with further funding in FY25. So just as a quick reminder, the Arlington Innovation Fund is really meant to boost entrepreneurship and increase the likelihood of startup success here in Arlington, hopefully translating into job creation and increased tax revenue for the county. Specifically, the program looks at targeting 3 areas of need within the regional tech ecosystem. First is early stage capital via the Catalyst Grant Program, which I'll touch on further in a second. Second and third are mentorship and networking opportunities via the Ecosystem Support Fund. On the Catalyst Grant side of the program, which is about 2/3 of the $1 million, we had launched our first cohort applications in the fall. We received over 20 applications. And one thing to note within those, we set a goal for ourselves of 50% of the applicants would be from underrepresented groups in traditional venture capital. Out of those applications, actually over 80% were from those groups, which we will attribute to a lot of the work that our team did in reaching out to groups that represent those founders. We did end up awarding 5 grants in the first cohort and awarded $225,000 to those 5 companies. Of note, each startup represented a different technology vertical, which really shows the breadth of the industry here in Arlington. We had companies in artificial intelligence, clean technology, cybersecurity, financial technology, and medical devices. And in the process, I just wanted to highlight that it was a really seamless process. We've received a lot of compliments from the entrepreneurs on how easy the process was compared to some other grant programs. So I want to attribute that to a lot of the leadership that helped us finesse the program. And also really just want to call out a strong partnership that we had with the Industrial Development Authority, helped us not only think through the program, but also to review the applications. So 2 of their members donated a significant amount of their personal time to review our finalists and make recommendations. Additionally, we worked with a third-party financial consultant who provided professional vetting of those companies and their growth potential here in Arlington. Also, just for your knowledge and kind of as a reminder, each grantee was required to sign a multi-year performance agreement, which will tie them to Arlington during that period. And each performance agreement does have reporting metrics that will be done at the 6-month, 1-year, and 2-year mark to allow us to kind of determine the program's success over time. So as you're kind of tracking those dates, the first reporting will be due sometime in kind of the late summer period, so we'll have some strong results then hopefully to share with you all. While we understand, this program is hopefully meant to be a multi-year investment, and we don't think we're going to create a robust tech ecosystem in 9 months. That's an unrealistic expectation. I do think we do have some strong signs of early success. First of all, we just built great relationships with not only our early stage startups, but also our ecosystem partners. I think we're just seeing a lot more robust conversations with both parties that will hopefully lead to great progress in the future. Also, I think we're seeing additional recognition from the programs, social media, and other items of just Arlington as being hopefully the best place in the region to create a startup business. And lastly, I think we're seeing from our Ecosystem Support Fund, hopefully some sustainable success. One example is Unstuck Labs, a startup studio in Roslyn. Coming out of the pandemic, they relaunched their initiative in a kind of pilot space in City Center building right above the Metro. And it sounds like they're doing very well. They've hired multiple new staff members since our assistance and are planning to hopefully lease an expanded space later this year. And lastly, just in terms of the $250,000 that is potentially being allocated to the program for next fiscal year, given the reduced amount of funding from year one, we plan on putting the entirety of that funding towards the Ecosystem Support Fund. We really have seen some great success there. Some of the partnerships listed with not only Unsuck Labs, but a women-led angel investment group, George Mason University, and others. So we'd like to continue those in some form, and then also identifying net new partnerships within the ecosystem. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, next slide. Thank you. So beyond the Ecosystem Support Fund, which is a new initiative for us, obviously a very traditional business investment group role is attracting corporate headquarters to Arlington. So as you all are very aware, given the work we've done over 18 months to secure this project, just wanted to highlight a little bit about CoStar Group's relocation from DC to Roslyn. First of all, before doing that, I just want to thank all the board members for a variety of conversations we had over the past 18 months, really for your all support for the project, and not only what we've done to date, but also the work that's still to be done in terms of the outstanding planning items related to the observation deck. Additionally, I just wanted to highlight that the project was really a true partnership between numerous county departments. While our team, of course, led the effort in conjunction with the county manager's office and the county board, I also worked very closely with CPHD, county attorney's office, DPR, and DES. So I just want to thank them for the partnership. And to highlight the deal quickly, I know there's a lot of other slides. So obviously, the company generates about $2 billion in revenue, has 6,200 employees. Currently has about over 2,000 of those in Virginia down at the Richmond Research and Development office. Here in Arlington, the company of course purchased 1201 Wilson, which is a 550,000 square foot building. They'll occupy 150,000 square feet of that project later this year. We certainly anticipate that to grow over time and hopefully lead to larger numbers down the road. And most notably in terms of the deal was the company's willingness to pay for about $14 million for the observation deck rights and to acquire those in perpetuity as part of the deal. While there's a public planning process still to go, if that comes to fruition, they would be putting $13.9 million towards Gateway Park and the realization of that public amenity about 8 years sooner than would have occurred otherwise. As I mentioned, kind of these corporate relocations are a core priority of the Business Investment Group and also a core tenet of the overall department's CMRI initiative. So I just wanted to highlight that as we're still continuing to drive tenant demand in this market. And I just want to say that while the overall prospect pipeline is significantly lower than it was before the pandemic, we are seeing a rebound in that. Although slowly but surely we are seeing that increase each quarter. So with there, I will stop and turn it over to, I believe, Emily is next. Thank you.
Oh, hold on. Actually, Emily, it's Tara. Yeah.
Oh.
Swap up.
Someone's excited.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. It is me, Tara Palacios, Director of Small Business for Arlington County. It's my pleasure to talk about a topic that's near and dear to myself and my Biz Launch team, and that is small business and the growth
Tara,
thereof.
can you try to be more enthusiastic?
Oh.
Please, thank you. Thank you.
It is the afternoon.
Can you model for us, Mark?
But I'm really excited to talk about it because from year to year and since the pandemic, we've seen a real growth. The numbers, people have decided that they are ready to start their own businesses. They're tired of working for someone else. And so we're continuing to see an uptick in the number of people that are starting businesses. Last year, we counseled over 1,100 small businesses in a variety of different industries, but the biggest ones were ed tech, as well as food services, professional services, just a variety of industry sectors. And so it's been really amazing because we have this opportunity to watch people live their dreams and be able to start their businesses. So it's been really great. And of those, 69% have been minority owned. And we've been really targeting and being deliberate and making sure that we have a variety of people at the table and to be able to inform and educate them about the process of financing, funding, information, everything that they need. And one program that has been really a unique tool for us, an award-winning unique tool, is our relaunch program. And since inception in 2001, when the board awarded us $1 million over 2 years, it's been about $1,250,000 that we've actually awarded. 225 have gone through the program, 383 applications. People are really benefiting from this economic development tool because it strengthens their businesses. It provides them with access to technology, but also access to understand this new platform and how to get funding and financing, because that platform has changed. PPP and EIDL loans are no more. So how do you best position yourself as a business to get capital? And so as they go through the relaunch program, they work with a technical assistance provider that will help them identify what are the key areas that they need to improve their business. And one of those could be to actually build a website. They've always had a brick and mortar, and now, they have this opportunity to have an e-commerce site, and they'll work with a AWS partner to be able to develop, design, and build that. And so it's been an amazing program for us because it allows us to really roll up our shirt sleeves and help in a way that's very different than we've been able to do before. So I do want to thank you all for your support of that program and the impact that it has had on our community. And so some of the other things that we've also done that I just wanted to mention is our collaboration and partnership with the Hyatt has been amazing. We just did our minority vendor showcase last week, and we had about 712 participants that came through over 2 days, and they got the opportunity to support Black businesses during Black History Month. So that was priceless, and we look forward to doing more innovative, cool things in the small business ecosystem. And that's me. And I believe it's Emily now.
I'm back. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'd love to talk with you about the work that our team does to market and sell Arlington to 3 key audiences: leisure travelers, business travelers, and meeting professionals. Our goal is really to get more people staying in our hotels overnight, dining in our restaurants, shopping in our stores, and enjoying our arts and culture, all the things that we all love to do here. According to Virginia Tourism Corporation, Arlington visitors spent nearly $4 billion here in 2022, and that resulted in more than $150 million in local revenues, including lodging, sales, meals, and other taxes. Our work is highly competitive. We compete for visitors not only with our neighboring destinations, but also cities around the country and even around the world. Since early 2022, ACVS has made an unprecedented investment in our program through the $3.25 million Virginia Tourism ARPA recovery grant for COVID. As Arlington's hotels and hospitalities really were some of the very hardest hit in Virginia financially due to COVID, this grant has really had a huge impact on our recovery. It's enabled us to make investments that will serve Arlington for the long term, including our research-based All in Arlington brand and new website, a $1.4 million multimedia advertising campaign that is continuing to run through this May, numerous PR engagements that are already bringing major media exposure, and photo video shoots at nearly 40 Arlington locations that have resulted in more than 1,500 new photographs that not only are used for tourism, but across all of our county departments. Up here, we see just a few results from our recent investments. Nearly 31 million ad impressions have run. There's been a 25% increase in hotel occupancy over 2022. Strengthening of hotel rates and related revenues, and website sessions to our site are up more than 28%, and pages viewed are up even further, 33%. It's really important for me to note that Northern Virginia and Arlington haven't actually fully returned to our pre-COVID hotel occupancy levels. We lag behind the rest of the Commonwealth right now because, of course, as mentioned earlier, business travel has been slow to return. But that said, Arlington ACVS is already marketing to address new trends in the way that people work, like the distributed workforce and Mark Schwartz's favorite word, bleisure, the combination of business and travel. So these are driving new revenue. The bottom line is that the new All in Arlington brand, advertising, PR, and sales investments are really paying off for the county and our hospitality businesses. So we really look forward to sharing with you the full impact of the grant in detail after it's wrapped up in June. So thank you.
Mark, you're up.
There you go. Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the county board. I will be relatively brief. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold, so my voice is going in and out. But the good news is I'm not asking for any more money. So that's always a good start to the conversation. And many of these things you are well aware of, and I'll go over some of them, but also briefly highlight other things that we do in our division that supports our business community and our community as a whole. Obviously, commercial market resiliency, you've been well briefed on. We are continuing to progress that. We're continuing to, and I think the important point is we have the bandwidth within our division to continue that progress, but it's interdepartmental as well. So we're not relying just on our work staff, we're relying on the entire organization to progress that. And that you're gonna continue to see a flow of both RTAs and board actions over the next year that sort of address specific issues. The second part, which is what I'm excited about, is because we have some subject matter expertise in real estate economics and public finance, working with our friends in DMF and county manager's office. But we've really realized that economic empowerment, and Ryan mentioned this earlier, housing is a key component of that. If people don't have safe, stable housing, it's hard for them to create the wealth and grow their businesses and those sort of things. So we've been very happy to, as part of once again, a very interdepartmental team led by housing, to work on things like Barcroft and commercial houses to sort of provide our lens on it, but also more just to provide some more manpower, or person power. I'll also say that what's not on this slide is something that sometimes it's behind the scenes. We provide a lot of interdivisional support for our other divisions, working on policy or ordinance issues. What I call the day-to-day problem solving of when a tenant can't get their sign approved and providing that service. A lot of those are things that we don't talk a lot about, but we work with our partners around the county to do. We also, you'll hear from the bids later, we also liaison with the bids, working alongside Deputy County Manager Shannon Fleming-Watson. And then there's always the special projects, and I won't go into detail. Some of them are too special to mention, but that sometimes we just, whether it be childcare or a certain ice skating facility in Ballston, that we often provide support as needed to those sort of efforts. So I'm happy to answer any questions later, but I wanted to be brief.
And Michelle.
Good afternoon. So I'm with Cultural Affairs, Director of Cultural Affairs. We do a lot of different types of work, but today I'm going to focus on the South 4 Mile Run area, where Cultural Affairs offices are located, and two great capital projects that are coming to fruition in FY 2025. The first one is what we're calling the 2700 Nelson Flexible Outdoor Art Space. That should be delivered sometime in the winter of 2025. And we're really excited about this because it's going to be a test bed for the arts in our community. It's a place for our arts community to take some risks, to experiment, low cost, low risk. It's an opportunity for workshops to happen. There will be a communal table, and also just for people to enjoy the area. So there are places for people to sit, and we'll have two different staging areas to do small scale or large scale concerts, theater programs, film, and spoken word. So very excited about that. And then the second project is a development of the DPR vacated space on the north side of 3700 South 4 Mile Run. And we are going to have 3 shared studios in textiles, printmaking, and ceramics. Very excited about that because these shared studios are something that our arts community has really asked for. And these 3 areas, we have a lot of strength because they are existing now. So these are going to be new facilities for those programs. And finally, we are consistent, thanks to the county board, with our annual general operating support of arts organizations and artists. In FY 2024, we had 18 individuals and organizations that received those funds. I will also note that we received an ARPA grant from the National Endowment for the Arts and $150,000. We were only one of 2 organizations in the Commonwealth that received those funds, so very proud of that. And that's because of the work we do in diversity and diversifying our arts offerings and including those who may not have been included in other arts grants programs. So the NEA recognizes that about Arlington, and we've been successful in getting the grants that we've applied for. So I will leave it there.
Thanks. We're going to move to the next slide, which just to highlight our bids and partnerships, and you're going to hear from all of them shortly. So I will just say that these are very strategic partners of ours. We're excited about the level of funding that's included in the proposed budget, and we'll continue to work with those organizations, but I'll let them speak for themselves later. So we'll move on now to just go into some of the budget details. We have just a few more slides, and I'm going to hand it over to Ifyak, who's going to walk us through the first few.
Good afternoon. My name is Ifyak. When developing AED's FY25 budget, we focused on 3 key considerations, and I think you've heard that theme over and over again here, which is first and second, maintaining our investments that address both supply and demand issues that affect office and commercial space. And we are doing that through our work on CMRI, placemaking, and ongoing efforts on business attraction, retention, and expansion. And third, we are also focused on identifying opportunities for efficiencies and collaborations across AED divisions. We're doing that primarily through our marketing, communications, and PR functions. Next slide. And now we dive into the numbers. For FY25, our proposed expenditure budget is going down by 5% and the revenue budget by 6%. The reduction in the expenditure budget is primarily due to budget reductions, which is listed in another slide, and I'll address them. But this is also offset by some additions to our budget, which I'll also address. The revenue budget is going down by $15,000. This is because we are realigning the budget with FY23 actuals. What happens every year is that we look at what happened in the preceding year to see where we are, and depending on what we know that may be coming, we adjust upwards or downwards. Next slide, please. The Tourism Promotion Fund is being reduced by $1.1 million. This is because of the ending of the Virginia Tourism ARPA grant. That reduction is offset by anticipated projected increased revenue to transient occupancy tax of $200,000 for the ACBS program. Next slide, please. For additions, we have a continuation of one-time funding for the Biz Launch en Espanol position in the Biz Launch program. And then we also have ongoing funding added for maintenance of 2700 South Nelson when it comes on. It's expected to come on stream in 2025, and it needs to be maintained going forward. There's also an addition of $5,000 to Clarendon Alliance. That was a request that they made. So their ongoing budget will now become $145,000. Next slide, please. For the reductions, we have the reductions cut across several divisions and across our personnel and non-personnel budgets. So on the personnel side, we're freezing the Cultural Affairs Program Coordinator position. That position is supposed to handle planning and activation for 2700, and Ryan will be discussing more in-depth the impact of these reductions. We are also eliminating 2 positions from our communications division, a digital strategist and a media production specialist. And we are reducing our non-personnel budget by about $123,000. Those reductions are coming from our business investment team. Their trade and promotion budget is going down by $49,000, while the communications team is losing, their budget is going down by $53,000, and the ops budget for subscription is going down by $20,000. I'll pass it back to Ryan. Next slide, please.
Just to wrap us up, I'll speak a little bit more in detail to the reductions. Ifyak mentioned the cultural affairs position. This is really just a freeze where because these facilities aren't coming online and we're not going to be programming them, we're holding that position vacant for a year. And so when the facilities come online and we're ready to start programming, we're going to come back and say we'd like to unfreeze that. So we made a very concerted effort to not take any or try to put any reductions into CAD's budget this year because we're going through an assessment of that division, which we're looking forward to sharing more information about the outcomes of that soon. But this we saw as a minimal service to no service impact reduction for a year. On the next slide, Ifyak mentioned we do have 2 filled positions that are being eliminated in the budget. These are both on the communications team. These are a digital strategist position that works predominantly on our website and a production specialist that predominantly does graphic design work and document formatting for us. These are reductions that we put forward because after doing a review of all of our marketing and communications functions, both staff and resources that we have in the budget, like vendors that we have on call, we felt that there was some duplication and that we want to move from highly specialized positions to more generalist positions. So we put these 2 positions forward. And then final slide is just to talk about the other service impact or other reductions that we're experiencing. Ifyak mentioned the first 2 are about $100,000 towards our trade and promotion budget. And that really just means resources or money that we use to do paid advertising on social media, money we use to send business development managers to conferences. This is basically ways we access and outreach to businesses. So we're drawing back about $100,000 on that. It will have an impact. We'll be cutting back on paid advertisement. That'll impact outreach and engagement on social media. We'll not be able to do as many trips and conferences to interact with businesses, but we'll review all of that in totality as we build our outreach and engagement plan for fiscal year 25. And then the last is just really just a transfer. The $20,000 we're charging back to the Tourism Promotion Fund for some services that Emily's team uses. So we'll be charging that fund. So no impact there. And with that, Madam Chair, we are complete.
Thank you. Not yet. We have 2 commissions with us, I think. I think Bill Dunn is here from the Economic Development Commission. Bill, here? Yeah, come on up. And Adam Green, Chair of the Arts Commission. I guess we've got 1 chair, so you don't have to share it. We can go back and forth. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You can relax. I'm not a cost in the budget. Good afternoon. I'm Bill Dunn. I'm the chair of the Economic Development Commission, and I Chair Garvey, board members, I thank you for allowing me to have a few minutes here today. I want to start out by congratulating County Manager Mark Schwartz for the yeoman's effort and work that goes into building a budget like this. It's not lost on me on how difficult it must be. Representing the Economic Development Commission, I'm thrilled to be able to work with AED. And the work that they do to create energy and attention to Arlington is phenomenal. They do fantastic work with your support and funding of biz launch, of the revitalization post-pandemic of tourism, of creating and launching the Innovation Fund. Massive kudos go to staff and the county board for landing CoStar. That is absolutely terrific for Arlington. Nevertheless, so here's where I come in. Materially, due to commercial office vacancy and related tax revenue shortfalls, County Manager Schwartz is asking departments and AED for cuts in the budget. In part, this means AED funding for all-in Arlington advertising and public relations will not keep pace with current levels. And the energy and attention that they're bringing to Arlington is absolutely essential. So I'm going to continue, I've said it before, I'll say it again, that AED is a revenue generator. They are not a cost center. So respectfully, the worst thing that you can do, a city, a community can do in response to shortfalls in commercial tax revenues is to cut or reduce investment in economic development. As impressive as the 2025 budget is in its comprehensiveness, it struck me that there's actually no specific line item addressing the single biggest crisis that Arlington faces, which is commercial office vacancy. I'm well aware that staff is working very hard. So AED, CPHD, I'm going to call out Mark McCauley specifically, the amount of work that he is doing and how effective he is. They're working on the issue, but commercial market resiliency is only mentioned 3 times in the budget. 3 times in a 1,100-page document. There's a lot going on. Mark came up here, I was shocked. Said he's not asking for any money, but the work they're doing is important. So the EDC is an advisory board. We can only study things and make recommendations. Respectfully, if AED is going to absorb cuts to its resources that are driving economic growth, I would hope or implore the county board to focus its energies on mitigating, minimizing, reducing, cutting bureaucracy in the site plan conversion process. So the county board must prioritize timeliness and adaptability to review draft changes to our zoning ordinance. And that's all I have.
That's fine. Thank you so very much. We may have some questions for you. I don't know. We'll see. And I think next, Mr. Green, come on up.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good afternoon.
My name's Adam Green. I'm the chair of the Arlington Commission for the Arts. I'm here to speak to you not only as a member of the Arts Commission, but also as a contributing member of the Arlington arts community. I've been a resident of Arlington for 14 years, and I'm a recent retiree of the United States Air Force after 21 years serving as a musician in the Air Force Band here in Washington, D.C. So currently I work in the nonprofit arts sector here, so I bring a unique perspective when it comes to being an artist, a veteran, active in the nonprofit workforce, and also being actively engaged in my community here. So speaking of the general operating support fund, the county's commitment to the arts through those grant funding programs is small. When adjusted for inflation and population growth, the county funds have actually declined over the years. In the height of the county funding back in 2007 to 2010, the arts program was supported at a level of about $1.31 per person in the county. Today, that investment amounts to about 78 cents per person. That's a 40% reduction in the commitment to the arts. So if today's grant funding were simply to have just kept up with inflation over the past 14 years, we'd be at about $410,000 in general operating support and individual funding. But instead, we are at the $215,000, which has been the same for the past 9 years. The effects that these reductions have on our arts community, it stunts their growth, it reduces the positive impact, and it drives artists and organizations out of Arlington. So I think that we could start with the one-time funding elements with an eye towards making those permanent funds in the future for the arts organizations and individuals. Those are the people that are doing the work on the ground. And it also should include fully funding AED and cultural affairs initiatives. Speaking about the fine people doing the boots on the ground work, I'd like to shine a light on some of those that are making an impact in our community. As it relates to education and affordable housing, we have organizations like the Education Theater Company, who's made a career out of inspiring children as young as 3 years old and as old as 103. ETC is a shining example of how financial support to an organization provides the opportunity for them to be creative with programming, impacting our community in a positive way and at all ages. Their work is extended beyond classrooms and into parts of the county considered to be arts deserts. One of the 5 goals set forth in the Enriching Lives Arlington Arts Cultural Strategy document, which I'm sure you probably all are familiar with, is invest and build. So although the one-time funding is welcomed and it is effective, it's just not sustainable for these organizations. This year's PLACE grant generated an astounding 40 applicants competing for just 6 grants that was divided up into. Through the devoted work of our cultural affairs staff and the members of the Arts Commission, the PLACE grant saw a 6-fold increase in applicants over the year before that. These grants have kickstarted programs, initiatives, and projects that deserve to be sustained. A great example of this type of funding being effective but not sustainable is the PLACE grantee partnership between AHC and Sushmita Mazumdar. Through their work in the Green Valley neighborhood, they are building trust and mending a fractured relationship between community members and the county. After FY24, we're not sure what happens next with those programs, but they deserve to be supported going forward. Another goal in Enriching Lives is integrate. And here, as we spoke to earlier about equity, we leverage the ability of the arts and strengthen community bonds to promote equity and inclusion in civic and cultural activities. The Commission has incorporated equity into all of our grant applications and ensures everyone is represented and has access to these public funds. A solution to this which is often overlooked. It comes to supporting arts as using something we've been talking a lot about, which is this public and private partnership idea. We see it everywhere in other sectors like transportation, education, corporate development. Currently, we could look at CoStar Group and their development in Roslyn. It's a result of public-private partnerships that's very effective. And I think that exploring that in a way would be a fine element to adopt into the arts conversation. So for this to happen, though, this requires human capital, not necessarily dollars and cents. It involves motivation and initiative to pursue these partnerships for the arts. Just look around. We have plenty of Fortune 500 companies right here in Arlington, as you know, major university campuses based right here in Arlington. They're there. So looking forward, we have a very smart and creative artists and professionals that know how to impact the arts here in Arlington. But organizations are often operating on narrow margins and with limited access to space, which we've been talking about as well. And that keeps them from achieving their potential. So supporting AED and cultural affairs and their staff by not cutting jobs, giving artists sustainable funding to build programs that will improve trust between the county and our residents that depend on affordable housing, supporting organizations like the Arlington Philharmonic so that they can build a musical education platform that can reach all corners of the county. We're asking you to continue prioritizing the arts as you did with the PLACE grant, and starting in maybe FY26, making those funds permanent and part of the annual budget. When you have an infrastructure that celebrates the arts, you end up with a community that thrives. So thank you for listening, and I appreciate your time for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We may have some questions. All right, colleagues, questions are to us. We're running a little tight on time. We're hoping to be out by 6, and we have 3 business improvement districts and 3 partnerships still to go. But these are lots of interesting topics, so maybe we can sort of do a little bit of a lightning round of questions to some extent, but I think we want to get some questions out. So we'll start down with Ms. Cunningham. I'm guessing that you have a question. Nope. Mr. DeFranti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question, I think on the question about the communications positions, and strikes me in my limited experience that graphics and website are often distinct, even though to a non-communications person, they can feel like there's overlap. I hear the point on generalists. Is there a associated investment? Can you give me a little scale and understanding of the consulting investment so that I can be mindful of this? My sense of the process is that, and I could be wrong, and the manager may correct me on this, but is that the start of the budget process was in a more, or a very dire, or not very dire, I don't know how to describe it, but a more difficult in place than the end of the process. And I very much appreciate, I don't know the context of when these came forward, and so I'm trying to evaluate them in the context of scarcity, but not perhaps as much structural scarcity as we might have thought 4 months ago. And so maybe a little sense of the consulting piece as we evaluate final decisions over the coming month.
Sure. So we, in addition to the comms team, we have 4 other communications professionals throughout the divisions. In addition to that, we have, I think it was about $1 million worth of both contracts and services and vendors that we utilize. That could be PR firms, that's systems that we run, that could be including the paid advertising, for example. So when we looked at all this earlier this year, we felt that we did have some duplication, and we feel that through a further assessment that we'll do throughout this spring and into the summer, we can get to a point where we have, I think, more generalists, but also just more redundancy in the system. And some of that might be contracting out some things, and some of that might be existing staff taking on more duties. But I think we can get to that balance.
Great. I'm mindful of the challenge there, and I think it is the case of the manager. We've said that wherever there are filled positions, there would be efforts to make sure that those individuals would have opportunities in the rest of the county. And so that's important to me. I guess that's really the biggest question that I'll have. I may follow up there. On All in Arlington, I think I'd like to just see if I got to have a conversation about the one-time funding and the levels of, the manager knows I've been pretty obsessed with the hotel tax revenues for the past while. I'm glad to see up 24%, but I do want to understand a little bit more, so I'd follow up there. And then on the arts grants, I think you've raised a fair question for sure. And so that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'll go to Ms. Coffey.
All right. I'm really glad we did a strategic planning process. I think it's going to help as we enter kind of a new phase of economic development here, not just in Arlington, but of course across the board. I'm wondering if in doing this, did we assess kind of like what are the Arlington specific barriers and challenges. I can imagine cost of living, things like housing, childcare, being so much more expensive here. Is that coming up when we try and recruit? In what ways does that come up? How do we, I guess, assess the interaction of all of the other things when it comes to cost of living and planning and CPHC versus economic development? And what is it costing us to not address some of those bigger problems?
You just turned it again. Yeah, you're on.
All right. That's a big question. The answer is yes, and that's why you heard Mark McCauley speak to the fact that our team works on affordable housing, because that is part and parcel, a huge part of what it's going to take to continue to thrive here in Arlington economically, is that people have a place to live and that sort of thing. But it also plays into, as we're looking at those target industries and target industry growth, we've got a kind of tech talent pipeline strategy, and we're looking at the wages, and they kind of align with what is affordable. So there is like some intentionality, I think, behind leveraging our talent and our workforce into, okay, what are the industries that will do the best with kind of the folks that we have, but then also continuing to focus on how do we ensure that there's job and economic opportunities for all. So I can't say that we could quantify the impact, but it's a huge part of our conversation. And I don't know if others, and Michael, I don't know if you've got specific insights on the business investment group when we're talking to prospects, like how does that come up? And it does come up for sure.
Yeah, and I'm almost wondering about like after action, you know, if you can, when we don't close something, right? Like if we can get some feedback back about like, obviously the cost per square foot is going to be a huge part of it, but what were the other factors? What were the things that weren't quite there or that businesses are looking for and we're not yet doing? I think having some of that data for us to kind of iterate on, I would love to see something like that.
Yeah, we actually do a lot of that to the extent the company will share something, right? Usually when we're working with the state, they're a little bit better about getting information. And if there's a site selector involved, they'll tell us because they want to do business with us again. So we can pull some information on kind of deals that might not have gone our way, and just to give you a sense, but it varies. It's just varies on the company. One other thing I just want to mention to your first question, that, and Kate was getting to this, is, you know, we also don't have to solve everything just ourselves, right? So like Kate mentioned the tech talent pipeline, like that, there's a Virginia initiative, there's every university has an initiative. So some of this is how do we contribute to it? Or even just how do we promote and make awareness of something. But there might be certain things that we say, no, we should own that as an agency and do that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I think my only other question, placemaking is something that comes up a lot. I love it as someone who lives in Clarendon, where there was such an intentional effort around placemaking. It's really great. Is part of the strategic plan calling out where needs that placemaking investment? Like, do we have kind of like neighborhood targets or things like that we're working on? Or is it more of a big picture all over the county placemaking?
Yeah, that's a great question. For the strategic plan, we've identified it as a key goal. I think the way forward is to work with our partners in the bids and the partnerships as a starting place, but also through cultural affairs. We have a public art program. We have other events that are organized that are, placemaking activities. So it will take on a place-based approach, but more to come on that.
Right. All right. Thank you. That's all for me. Okay.
Mr. Karantonis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. And of course, thank you for the work. I will start with one thing that I'm missing in the communication of what this department does, and it's a lot. This is workforce development. So I think that I know it is permeating every single bit of your work. It's critical. I used to have an old boss, a very successful woman, who would say, so you think that businesses are going, that people are going where businesses are? You're wrong. Businesses are going where people are. And I always remember that when I come into AD, you had the big poster that says our best renewable resources are people, and that's still true. So for me, this is really critical and permeates also anything that I'm going to ask now and during this budget season.
Okay, make it quick a little bit.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
So, critical thing. One of we heard a little bit about relaunch. The kid that the pandemic and BizLaunch had, and I have heard a lot of success stories. And if I had to call this year, I think it's a leverage year. So we're very small interventions getting a lot of mileage. So what can we do to salvage and use the capital that we created with relaunch?
So we've got a great, the nice thing about relaunch and now with the Innovation Fund is we have two programs that are already stood up. They're ready to go. And so we don't have to rebuild everything, and we have a great brand in terms of, and we've been good on communicating. I think what Tara and Michael would tell you is that these efforts have resulted in now businesses who we have a very strong relationship with who are talking to other businesses. And so getting that word out in terms of, I think, how do we leverage this? It's if they're funded, we leverage this through the relationships that we've built with those companies. Does that answer your question?
Partially. I will be looking deeper into that.
Okay.
Because I think the success stories of relaunch are amazing. And we heard that over 60% of takers here have been minority businesses,
Right.
et cetera. When they get a foot through the door in the marketplace, they can do amazing things. I mean, Ms. Coffey was telling me how amazing the showcase was the other day. She even suggested that we should write you a letter to congratulate you for that, which I believe you deserve, along with standing ovation. Second thing, I hear a lot from arts organizations. So as of lately, these are calls for action. They are in dire straits. They have big difficulties. These difficulties are not only the classic money difficulties. These are also venue difficulties, especially when I refer specifically on our performing arts, avant-garde, for example, etc. So I begin to be really concerned that we're losing, muscle tissue there. So my question is the size, scope, and leverage that is behind the arts grants sufficient, or is it beginning to be very weak, as our commissioner suggested here?
Yeah, I've had a chance to meet with every user that comes to our programs, every art user. There's about 24 of them. I've heard that I think it's time we maybe rethink kind of the grant system. There are different needs within the organizations, and it's different if you're just a community-based organization or you're an organization that's more professional and maybe wants to grow into a more regional organization. So we have been talking to those to all the arts organizations about this. We have some ideas that we're going to take back out to the community through our assessment. We've been able to build some ideas. So in terms of kind of the structure and how that program works, I think there's interest in doing something new and different that could help propel organizations better. In terms of the funding, we are certainly limited to whatever we get. And so, I think you heard tonight from the commission that there's an interest in more funding, but we will work with whatever we're allocated. But I think we're going to go back to the organizations and really ask if maybe it's time that we change kind of how these grants work so that it's not a one-size-fit-all system and it's more tailored towards where they are in their journey as an organization. I think that's what we've been hearing, and that's something we're very open to exploring in cultural affairs.
Thank you. This is indeed what I'm thinking. It's not only how many dollars we put to work, but also what they buy.
What they do, yeah,
So,
exactly.
Last but not least, you don't need to answer that right now. The Arlington Economic Development Commission, worked a lot on the office vacancy, and there were a series of proposals that are all resource intensive. I would say so. How we reposition buildings, etc. I don't know how these have flown into the thinking of this budget, but I know that they're there, and I'm very interested to engage with the department to see what we can do, even within this budget and in future budgets, to make use of the best ideas that are contained there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cunningham.
Just building on Takis's question about the arts, I think that it's crucial in this time, especially as we're coming back from COVID and finding ourselves again. The arts are really one of the key connection points across our community and across equity. Is the assessment you're doing, will it include looking at benchmarks of other jurisdictions and how they are investing both in people and in dollars?
It doesn't. We've really focused on kind of what we've heard from the organizations, and that's it's really around staffing. We have some staffing challenges and facility hour challenges just based on how things are scheduled right now, and we're trying to optimize that without having to try, to the best extent we can, not reduce service to any organization. We've had conversations about the grant program and kind of just general funding support. So that's been the core focus right now. If we get into conversations about, we will kind of look at what other jurisdictions do in those two realms that I just talked about, but we haven't done a full benchmarking against other jurisdictions. We've been kind of narrowing it to what are the pain points that we're hearing from the organizations and then trying to address those. And it takes a bit of time. It takes capacity from our staff to bring ideas forward, to meet, to vet, to, go back out into the community. So we're chipping away at it, but it's really been focused on a few specific issues that the organizations brought to our attention.
Okay, great. So I suspect we may need to go a little bit broader than that in another step. And including the access to spaces, whether they're spaces we already have in Arlington Public Schools or in recreation centers or in spaces that you all control. And on that point, I know you've probably already been in partnership with the folks that are thinking about the additional arts venues and the possibility of partnership with the Ray partnership. Has that come across your desk?
It has.
Okay, so the kind of intersection of economic development and repositioning as well. Okay, second question is really around the Arlington Innovation Fund. The goal is laudable, but I'm curious what we're finding and do we feel that that is sufficient dollars to attract an entrepreneur to base their new business in Arlington, given that the pool of venture capital funds out beyond us is much, much larger and also very equity focused right now?
Yeah, so the fund actually you have to be an existing Arlington-based business to access the fund. And what we're trying to do is fill a small gap that is, these companies have had to have raised up to $500,000 in round two. We've increased that to $1 million. But they've already have to have raised capital, and this is trying to help extend the life of their initial raise until they can get to a VC raise or a Series A round of funding. So it's a very targeted kind of niche area that we're looking at. And this allows us to kind of get in early with these companies and give them a reason to kind of continue to grow in Arlington. So we by no means are going to ever compete with venture capital or angel funds or any of that. But we feel that we can add to the capital stack and also through our relationship building, help them find connections with groups like Virginia Innovation Partnership Corporation, which runs their own program that they could then access for another 25 or 50. So it's a way for us to kind of help to build the capital stack, but we're never going to be in a place where we're giving out VC level funding.
Great. And then last question, the elimination of the program coordinator position. So it looks like the delivery of the Nelson Street space, is that winter 2025? Is that code for first quarter of the calendar year 2025? Is that winter?
No, that'll be.
How does climate change affect our description?
It's December timeframe
of 2025.
It's probably gonna be in March of 2025.
March 2025. Okay. So that sounds like that may actually really delay some of the programming there. I'm wondering if, and I appreciate the effort to manage, especially positions we don't yet have, rather than eliminating positions. But I also know it's hard to program a brand new space and build some innovation and momentum there. And I wonder if there's a way we might, with a smaller pocket of dollars, partner with George Mason and Amazon and MoCo and others that are trying out different programs and pilots on plazas and get a little bit of run room there, and maybe even extend it to trying out some teen programming that are plazas near rec centers or APS, but just get a couple more reps in before that full-time person arrives.
Yeah, it's certainly something we can look into. We do assist with some of the programming at Mason Square, for example. And so we have some internal capacity, but that's fair. Like, how do we bridge the gap until we have the position online?
Great. And then the last little asterisk for that one is we hear a lot about multicultural affairs and the kind of the transition from DPR to AED. And I think a lot of our smaller, most diverse organizations feel like they don't have or haven't had as much of the ambassador and kind of barrier remover that you are doing on the business investment side. And so maybe we kind of take the same strategies that we've been using with small and large businesses to get through barriers and think about how to feed that into our multicultural.
Well, we have, and that's the point of the outreach this
Great.
year of sitting down with all of them is and it's the first time that's ever happened at the director level to make sure that they know exactly who they can come to in the organization. But we will continue that. It's not a one-time thing. It's a regular thing we have to continue to do.
Great.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Right. So first, I'm glad we went over the good news. Mr. Dunn actually did a great job. All the compliments. I mean, because we don't want to miss that. But we want to focus in on the problems and the issues we got. It seems to me what you're clearly doing is restructuring the department. And so some of these positions, that kind of helps you do that by eliminating the positions. The one part that does worry me that maybe we should reconsider the cutting is the advertising and attending conferences, because that's getting the word out. That doesn't feel like it's part of your restructuring. That worries me the most. Mm-hmm. So I see head nods. We could maybe talk about that later. But yeah. I would entertain maybe not taking all of those cuts. And then I really appreciate the whole conversation on the arts, and particularly, Adam Green mentioned ETC, and then if you think of, say, Signature, they're the two different kinds of arts groups, right? Signature's got a national reputation, international, even, really quality. You want to have that. ETC gets the kids and everybody here doing, and you want to have that, two different worlds, as you said, different kind of standards. So I'm really pleased we're kind of rethinking that. I have tried to figure for a long time how we should do it, and I think we are losing some folks that we don't want to lose, and I'm glad you're looking at it, and hopefully we can kind of get that up and running a little better. So thank you. All right. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. Yep. All right. We've got our business improvement districts. Ladies, our dynamic threesome. I think Ms. Burke is on as virtual. Yep. And Tracy Gabriel. Tracy, you Ms. Gabriel? Yep. Okay. And I've seen Tina Leone, and I don't know if you all want to just come out together. I think that might make it faster a little bit. You could sit over here if you want, I think. Is that all right, Mr. Manager, if they sit next to you? Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So maybe when Mr. Ibanga goes, you could take that seat right there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. First on my list is the Roslyn bid. Ms. Burke, are you with us online? All right.
I'm here. I was trying to get my mic up. Sorry about that.
All
Sorry
right.
I couldn't be with you all.
I'm sorry you can't be here too. I hope you're getting better. Please go ahead and take it away.
Yes. So I really appreciate the opportunity to highlight our team's core services and our big priorities for fiscal year 25. Our work plan that you have does detail how we're going to double down on our core services and continue to deliver on our program areas. But tonight I'll focus on three key priorities that are overlapping with the county budget. So the first is keeping Roslyn clean and safe. Our ambassador program has uniquely positioned us to help bridge the gaps in operational services between public and private sector. So we'll, of course, continue that. We operate a homeless outreach program and partner with ACPD on an off-duty police program and have recently launched a private security program. So all of this really just enabling us to proactively implement safety measures to keep Roslyn secure. And I would say in terms of the county budget, to achieve this goal, we do think it's critical that our partners at ACPD and DHS do remain well funded. Their services really do safeguard Arlington's high quality of life and the programs. In terms of the bid, our second program area will come as no surprise. We've just heard a lot about it, and that's the commercial office vacancies and the return to office. Obviously, those are continuing to remain top of mind. And although Roslyn does continue to attract major headquarters and welcome new residents, which is great, declining office vacancy rates does mean diminishing revenue for the county and the bid. So we are now evaluating some trade-offs, and we're reallocating some funds to ensure that we're able to continue to deliver on our core services while we continue to navigate the economic realities. We certainly appreciate the cross-departmental approach that the county has taken to solve the vacancy challenge, and we really appreciate staff's focus on CMRI. We think it's a great start. And we believe that funding AED is equally important. I agree with Bill. This is really not the time to pull back on funding for economic development work because it really is fundamental to tackling the vacancy rates and protecting future revenues for the county. And our third priority is maintaining and activating Roslyn's public spaces. It's our passion. And as you heard from Ryan and Kate, it is vital to creating the quality of life that our residents, employees, and visitors have come to expect. And so while we continue to do the interim placemaking things that we've always done, we really are so grateful to county leadership and you, the elected officials, for your ongoing commitment to Roslyn's longer-term public realm priorities, including advancing core transportation projects, expanding Arlington's river access, and finally realizing Gateway Park nearly a decade earlier, thanks to all of your recent efforts with CoStar. So these major planning initiatives are essential investments, and we think that they really support Arlington's economic sustainability. And so therefore, we stress the importance of ensuring that county staff have the manpower and the resources to be able to deliver these projects on schedule and maintain them for future generations. So in closing, I would just say that partnerships really are just so fundamental to the Roslyn that you see today. We'd like to thank Mark and his incredible leadership team and the staff across the many departments that we work with. And, special shout out to Val, who's our liaison, and Shannon, who serves on our board. We really appreciate your work. And we, as always, stand ready to work with you to tackle the challenges ahead and really deliver on our shared goals of preserving Roslyn's high quality of life and our economic competitiveness.
Thank you very much. I think we'll take everybody and we'll see if we have any questions for you after we get through all three bids. Ms. Gabriel, National Landing.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, Madam Chair Garvey and members of the County Board. I'm Tracy Say Gabriel, and I'm very glad to be here today to represent the National Landing Business Improvement District. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss our major accomplishments and our district's outlook and priorities for FY 2025. It is about partnerships. So we are grateful for our partnership with Arlington County and leaders like Shannon Flanagan-Watson and Ryan Toohill, and of course the county manager, as our collective collaboration has helped position the National Landing area for continued growth, greater connectivity, and more inclusive and livable development. Some highlights of our county partnership include focusing on small businesses by expanding the reach and impact of biz launch programs like Relaunch and Open Rewards, collaborating on research to inform and strengthen our position as an innovation district, advocating for policy changes that support commercial resiliency and business retention and attraction, advancing our equity forward goals through community conversations and convenings, and helping our community frame priorities for transportation projects through advocacy like that of our People Before Cars Coalition. Other recent accomplishments include nearly 200 community building events, a banner year for press coverage, and the successful completion of our strategic plan. Adopted in 2023, our strategic plan outlines a dynamic future for National Landing, with big moves that guide our FY 2025 initiatives. These key priorities include establishing a National Landing Foundation, exploring the creation of an ambassador team for a clean, safe, and welcoming environment, supporting county efforts to realize a green ribbon, developing and implementing creative placemaking and a public art plan, and advancing signature mobility projects like Route 1 and CC to DCA. These initiatives complement the areas we're already working on, like innovation, wayfinding, raising the profile of our area, and growing our destination appeal. The outlook for National Landing is a bright one. It is the fastest growing district in our region, with the arrival of HQ2, thousands of new residential units on the horizon, a number of repositioned office properties, and many new businesses opening every quarter, which are adding to the area's amenities. While it's an exciting story of transformation, it is one, I want to underscore, it's one that is not immune to the macroeconomic challenges that are creating unprecedented impacts on the commercial real estate market. So I would also suggest that the county stay steadfast in their efforts to support economic development and innovation, as well as infrastructure ranging from transportation to parks that help to ensure that our commercial districts can thrive and sustain the county's tax base. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Last but not least, the Ballston bid. Ms. Leon. Push it again. Yep, you're on. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Just again, thank you for having us today, and just echo the comments from my counterparts, and thank you to Shannon and Val and Ryan and the team for working with us. We have had to tighten up our focus over the last several years. We've had declining revenues over the last 7 years, long before COVID started, and et cetera. So with that, though, we are, it's funny because we are similar in size to Roslyn as far as the number of businesses, the number of employees, similar in office space, more residents, more residential units. We operate on a third of the budget and a third of the number of employees. That being said, we do a lot with a little. Now, there's no reward for that, but we do that. We have, we've conducted just this year alone over 26 business appreciation events, touching 1,800 employees directly in Ballston, and that's really been our focus, is to support the efforts of AED and their attraction work, and then retain the employees that we have, retain the companies we have. So that outreach to them that's our. That's a very big part of our focus. We do continue to do some events, including Quarter Fest, which is 15,000 people that attract, that come to Ballston. But it's getting more and more difficult to host these community events with a small amount of people. Over the years, I mean, I am the founding CEO of the BID. I've been here now 12 and a half years. So, it's painful to see the budget decline. I understand the circumstances and that other organizations are hurting as well. But and the fact that we've had declining revenues over the last 7 years, 3%, 4%. Now, we are now going to take a 10% drop. So we're looking at over 150,000 in one shot of decline. So we will work with what we have, and we will continue to, maximize everything that we can. Our people who are doing, my staff is just incredible, doing the work of twice the work that what they should be doing. But we love Ballston. We love the BID, and we're going to commit to that. Also want to note that we do look for outside sources of revenue. We have raised over $3 million as a staff over the last 10 years to supplement our budget. So we take that very seriously, and we want to make sure that our tax dollars go as far as possible. But coming forward, as the budget will continue to decline as we expect over the next couple of years, with 1.3 going down, and over the next 2 years, we will have to continue to cut programs, possibly people, and it will get tougher and tougher. We've already, cut way back, and we do no paid advertising with marketing. We have cut back on any beautification plans, Route 66 gateway plans, art installations, improvement to the public realm, any outdoor furniture, outdoor work areas. And we at one point to a staff of 8, we are now 4. So coming forward, more community events will have to be cut, as well as possibly the farmers market, which is extremely popular, in Ballston. And I just, as I said, though, we will do the maximum that we can to make this budget go as far as possible to serve, the Ballston and, of course, our BID members and the county as well. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, colleagues, questions for our bids? Any questions? Mr. Karantonis, start with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I believe that I reflect everybody's sentiment that we cannot be thankful enough for the work and your staffs. It was said here that placemaking is important. Yes, of course it's important. It's everything we have. This is the place where people live. I'm extremely worried about Ballston. Ballston is also true that's one of the hardest hits, if I'm not wrong, markets right now with commercial vacancy. And percentage, only Clarendon can be a little bit close to that, but it is. And a 10% decline, if there is a red flag, this is a very big one. So I don't know if part of the strategic thinking of the department as a whole, and I'm referring now to AED, is to review the footprint, because there are structural reasons for that. In Ballston, for example, the bid cannot expand to one of the most successful commercial operations here, which is commercial residential real estate. In my opinion, it doesn't cover enough territory, because Virginia Square, for example, is a place that is not benefiting from a placemaking activity of a business improvement district. I know that this is really difficult. I know that this is not linear. I just want to make sure that it is said that I really am very interested in progress on this. That's all. I understand your problems.
No, thank you. Any other questions? Mr. DeFranti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Karantonis focused in exactly on where, I got an 11-week-old, so I'm liaison, and I haven't done enough in Ballston, but yet, this year. But I'm eager, and I want to follow up with you to see if, we can do, what all we can do. I probably shouldn't be eating lunch anywhere except Ballston over the next year. And that's right. And then also, I think there's a lot of detail under Mr. Karantonis' comment. I want to follow up, mindful of that. But I think it's a balance, right? Because there's so many strengths to Ballston, and yet the reality of the office structure that is there, it is our place that economic development-wise, I really am thinking about the most. So wanted to say that, mindful of the challenge of doing more with fewer and more with less. And I think the proof is in the pudding of what I do to help this year. So I'll try to really dig in on it. Thanks.
Yep. Ms. Cunningham.
I had a question on the Roslyn BID's journey with manual billing for the condo that was excluded. Does that make sense? It's in your budget.
Yes. My favorite topic.
Okay. And I'm just curious, can you share kind of lessons learned and things that we might need to improve on our end, as well as potential opportunities for extending to residential in some of these other bids?
Yeah, so clearly that was a challenging time. I think just the way things came about for the Pierce condo, clearly it was not as ideal as it could have been. The good news is, I think, in partnership with the county, again, thanks to Shannon, she was along for the ride for much of that. I think we are in a good place. We've recently brought on the HOA president to our board and have made a commitment to make sure that we are really understanding their needs and connecting them with all the various county departments where they have lingering and ongoing issues. So I think the initial tax problem was resolved. There is some residual challenges, but I think we're in a good place. The one benefit, when I talk about lemonade from lemons, I think the good thing that did happen from it is it really reminded us of the importance of staying connected with our residential, particularly because we're clearly the only ones that have owners, the condo owners in our district. And so it really highlighted for us the importance of that, going from a predominantly commercial developed district into a mixed use place. It is different. A lot of the services that you need to be focused on and the stakeholders that you're focused on are a little bit different. And so I think we've been able to make those shifts, and I think we're in a good place. We did hear from one of our developers that's coming forward that they are considering condos, which made me a little nervous, but I think we do have some good lessons learned so that if they do take that route, we will be way ahead of the game in terms of setting that up for success.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Ms. Coffey.
Yeah, one last word. I mean, I think I can't say enough positive things about the bids. I've been to events in all three neighborhoods that the bids have put on in the last few months or so. They're always populated, they're always exciting, there's always so much going on, and I think it's such an important benefit to the community to have you all doing all of this work. And I think Ballston in particular is such an intriguing problem to me because it's so vibrant. The neighborhood is so, in my time living here, which I know is shorter than most, it's never been so alive as it is now. It's just alive with a very different type of person, and they're doing different types of things now. And so I really, I hope that we can all work together to figure out a way to kind of help manage this evolution of the neighborhood, because I think it, for those of you who don't spend once a week checking Zillow, it's more expensive to live in Ballston now than it is to live in Clarendon.
Yes.
And people are really surprised by that because, and even when I first moved here, I moved to Ballston. My first apartment was in Ballston because that was the cheaper neighborhood to live in. And so something structural has changed here, and I think we need to recognize that and start to adjust our thinking and our expectations. And I don't know if it's boundaries, I don't know if it's including different things somehow, but I think there's such a mismatch to what I'm seeing on paper in the budget of what revenue you're generating and the real activity that's going on the ground.
Right.
And so I just want to highlight that in terms of doing a lot with not a lot, like it's so alive there, and it's been such a good job, but I think our thinking is maybe a little behind the times.
Yeah, all right.
We're just concerned about the competitiveness of Ballston going forward.
Yeah.
And without having commercial apartments in our bid, it is a severe detriment to the amount of programs and activities that we can do. The apartments represent 60% of our commercial space total in Ballston now, and it just keeps going that way. So with the offices, especially being in declining values, it just keeps, there's no other offset to that. Where I'm very jealous of Tracy because she's got the apartments, and so it does tend to offset each other, and you're able to continue, at least even if it's a steady budget, at least you have that to continue to do the programs and activities to keep the community going, keep it vibrant.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So I think we need a strategic plan for Ballston. We get busy. You're talking about, doing more with less. If you continue that trend, you're doing everything with nothing. We're not going to get there. That doesn't work. So it feels to me, we've been watching this go on, and I think I would love to have some kind of real thinking. What do we want from Ballston? What do we need to have there? Because we're on a trend that I don't think we want to have continue, and we're going to need to do something, and I think we need to kind of really look at it right now. Do we want to continue on this trend? I think probably not, and if not, what do we need to do to stop it? So I think we need to be really intentional about it.
I think that'd be fantastic.
Well,
Yeah,
we'll
to
see.
really think about what do we want Ballston to be, and like what does the county want?
Well, and what do we need? Because you all are strategic,
Yeah.
are absolutely strategic partners, and you don't want to lose a strategic partner.
Right.
So we need to kind of figure that one out. So thank you, and not take anything away from everybody else, but we do need to keep moving. Thank you so very much for coming. And then I'm going to bring up our partnerships, and I'd love to have all three come up, but Mr. Ibanga, I already kicked you out of your seat. I'm so sorry. But Catherine, you might have to move too. We'll see if we can do it. Our partnerships here, who is here? I see Mr. Schneider. Ms. Brown, is Ginger Brown here?
I'm online.
You're online? Good. Okay, that saves a seat. Well, that helps us. and yes, Ms. Bagapour, how are you?
Good.
Well,
Am I starting?
Yeah, I think you are. Andrew, come on right up. We'll just keep us moving. Okay, good. And sure, Ms. Bagapour, why don't you go ahead and get started for the Clarendon
Great,
Alliance.
thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm about 60 days into this position at this point, so Kieran's here as my backup. You all know him, and he's been great at helping me transition and covering bases while the Clarendon Alliance has been sort of, quieted down a little bit over the past couple of years. So just real quickly, historically, the Funding that we had, an additional investment did not arrive into our coffers until April of '23. So that's being actualized now. Money that we had sort of earmarked to use prior, we're working with now. In addition to that, we're working on, that money is earmarked sort of for strategic planning, develop some very specific KPIs and deliverables as far as what we're actually going to be doing with that. I think placemaking, branding, that kind of work is going to be done there. So what Clarendon, which is actually Clarendon Courthouse and Virginia Square, is focused on for that baseline funding this year is to produce and promote and manage 3 of Arlington's signature events. Clarendon Day, which this year is September 28th. Mark your calendars. The annual Arlington Festival of the Arts, which is April 27th and 28th. And Music by the Metro was a concert series that'll be Thursdays in May. So every Thursday in May from 5 to 6:30. Come on down. Also, we do some sort of four-wall events that are like the Armed Forces cycling event and things like that, where we just kind of coordinate with the county to make sure that they're covering all their bases. So what we're planning on using our budget for in the next, in 25, is to support activities to raise additional funds. So I'm really focused on cash in, sponsorships, membership, things like that, really cleaning our roles and making sure that we're taking advantage of that. We're supporting affiliate coordination in the region as well. So working with the police department on efforts that they've got for outreach, and any way that the Clarendon Alliance can help amplify the message from other organizations within the Arlington County government, so the Performance Parking Initiative right now, primarily in the Clarendon Courthouse, Virginia Square area. We have, social media platforms and websites, so we can help promote and market that stuff. So that's one of the things that we're doing. And also providing 360-degree feedback from our region in the Clarendon Courthouse area to all of you. And I've met with a lot of you already and have talked to you about what I'm learning with my fresh eyes. I mean, I've been an Arlington County resident for over 30 years. So I have been involved, but this position is a little bit different for me. So those, I think, we've asked for a very modest increase that sort of is in line with the same increases that Langston Boulevard is getting. And that should get us to where we need to go. And hopefully we'll be very effective at raising a little bit of money to support the Clarendon Alliance.
Great, thank you. All right, Mr. Schneider, thank you. You can stay because we may have some questions for you. Thank you. Mr. Schneider. Yep, you got it. It's on. There's a red light. It's like, see mine? You just can't see it when you're in front of it. Yeah.
I'm a novice. Thank you, Chair Garvey, members of the county board, county staff. So I was hoping to play like the new person card, but 60 days, 90 days. So I'm grateful for the chance to be here this evening to speak as we reflect on the Columbia Pike Partnership's accomplishments and as we look towards FY25. I've already, in my brief amount of time, I've already learned a lot and heard a lot about the amazing vibrancy, challenges, and opportunities along the Pike, and just wanted to share a few of them. Most importantly, I did want to say thank you on behalf of the entire CPP board and staff. Gratitude to the county board, to Manager Schwartz's team, and for the incredible team at AED. Not a day goes by that the CPP team is not interacting and working alongside Mr. Toohill's team, in particular, Biz Launch and Cultural Affairs. So thank you. More broadly, we work on a daily basis, it seems, with DES, CPHD, and Parks and Rec, the police department, and other county offices and agencies, and partnering with CPP to fulfill the very original vision, which I was reviewing this morning, of the Columbia Pike Neighborhood Area Plan from 2012, which was to foster a healthy, diverse community with high quality of life along the Pike. It still seems relatively relevant. Accordingly, the significant and committed investment that the county makes in the partnership each year and the corridor is a testament towards fulfilling that vision. And CPP's alignment with that vision continues to pay dividends to the individuals and families who live and work and visit the Pike every day. And not only does the Pike quarter have one of the lowest commercial vacancy rates in the county, your support allows CPP to advocate and support collaborative assistance to businesses with BizLaunch. Turn the page through our business outreach coordinator and our business outreach manifested through our business outreach specialist, and a dozens of events that we host and participate in every year. These include our nationally recognized blues festival, summer movie nights, monthly lunches at Pike restaurants, quarterly connect and collaborate events with small businesses, new business ribbon cuttings, and many other events to bolster and celebrate our community. In addition, working closely with the Pike's president group, the 10 civic associations in the planning corridor representing about 20% of the county's residents, we make sure that we are committed to closing the achievement gap in our schools, increasing access to housing, and maintaining and furthering the corridor as a safe, desirable place to live, work, or visit. And as we look ahead to the year ahead, we are committed to working with you and the entire county team to ensure that the unprecedented investment in Barcroft returns a promise and opportunity such a significant investment is worthy of. We look forward to working with you as we complete multi-year multimodal projects, begin planning on a potential new Columbia Pike Library, and we look forward to celebrating with you as Columbia Pike continues to be the place to be. CPP stands as your partner to accomplish the ambitious and vital goals contained within the FY25 budget, and as your partner to realize the potential and promise of the Columbia Pike Corridor and our broader Arlington community.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Schneider. That brings us to the Langston Boulevard Alliance. Ms. Brown, online virtually. There you are. Hi.
Hi. Sorry that I can't be there with you today, but thank you so much for having me. I'm Ginger Brown. I'm the Executive Director of the Langston Boulevard Alliance. And LBA is very proud of the work that we've done this past year. The future of the Langston Boulevard corridor is bright. After more than a decade of community engagement and grassroots work by LBA in an epic collaboration with staff, a new 30-year plan has been adopted for the 5-mile-long corridor. After decades of missing out on investment, we will have the opportunity to implement the county's vision of a more equitable place in North Arlington. LBA has been the on-the-ground organization to help and smooth the planning by leading placemaking initiatives, hosting events like the Earth Day Festival, our Bike to Work pit stop. We've also acted as a liaison to the community and welcomed and supported our small businesses along the corridor. Behind the scenes, we've been working on branding and marketing efforts and cultural and historic projects, including a legacy business project that will be rolled out soon. With the plan in place, the implementation will begin this year, and the county will enjoy considerable economic developments. And so we'll be transitioning from single-story commercial buildings to mixed-use and residential towers. And while implementation can be messy and does pose challenges, LBA will be there to help. The Boulevard is a very big place. It is a 5-mile-long commercial corridor with 5 commercial centers, and it will take a serious collaboration between LBA and staff to achieve the standards of service that are set forth in our other commercial centers in Arlington. Arlington's bids and partnerships have done an excellent job guiding change in their neighborhoods, and we will too. We've also been focusing on the sustainability of our organization. We've increased our fundraising, added a revenue stream. We've secured tens of thousands of dollars in pro bono legal services to explore a change of tax status that will allow us to apply for new grant opportunities. And we are working on a strategic plan as well as a marketing communications plan. We are so grateful for the funding increase last year in fiscal year 2024. With those funds, we were actually able to hire a part-time program manager that's making a big difference in LBA's operations. And this year, we're hoping for a modest increase in order to make her a full-time employee. So I'd really like to keep her. I'm here today to just humbly ask for a modest increase in order to stabilize that position from part-time to full-time. The investment that Arlington's other commercial neighborhoods have enjoyed through their partnerships and bids is visible for all to see, and now it's time to bring Langston Boulevard and its neighborhoods along as well with adequate and appropriate staffing. We're so excited for the next years to come and to see finally the vision implemented. I also want to make sure and say thank you to all of the county staff that we work with on a day-to-day basis, to our new AED leadership team, as well as our CPHD staff, Tara's team, Emily's team, Michelle's team, and Angela Adams' team, as well as all of the other staff that we work with on a daily basis. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. All right, colleagues, questions for our partnerships? Any questions? Mr. Karantonis, your light's on.
Yeah, my light is on. True, I did it.
You volunteered.
So I'm utterly biased speaking about the partnerships, and I do that with pride. There is, it's not the first time I will say that, there is no economic development dollar that stretches that far and renders so much and engages so many people to do so much for absolutely no compensation in terms of money than urban partnerships can mobilize. This is a capital that very few communities have, and very few communities have the gift of having this. So I see, I believe that CPP is a case of enormous success. A lot to do, especially now with Pike Forward and all the upheaval with businesses suffering because of the eternal works there that are now accelerated. But everybody needs a lot of close relationships so that we keep them afloat and continue to be successful. With regards to Clarendon and Langston, I still think that we made a lot of progress to fund these partnerships better, but I do believe that we need to think a little bit more strategically about that and put them on a trajectory of a placemaking, of a really placemaking strategic plan that involves everybody. I was thinking again and again, and this is a proposal to the department, since we heard also that the bids are not entirely great, maybe we have to have a placemaking summit at some point and get all these people around a table and discuss a coherent plan that will bring us forward and will give this board a list of action items and to really understand, what next steps is and to hold ourselves accountable on success there. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Ms. Coffey.
Yeah, I think kind of almost picking up on exactly where you're leaving off. Is there an expectation or a model that we've had historically about how the partnerships work with economic development and are supported? And, it feels like things are kind of a little freewheeling in the best way, but, we have 3 partnerships with 3 vastly different models, and I think more support and guidance could be really critical to getting us all where we want to go.
Well, I'll just say that clearly, if our goal is to have these be strategic partners in economic development, you don't do that through volunteerism, right? And so we've been working closely in our staff. Susan, who's in the audience, is our liaison to the partnerships. We work very closely with them every year to try to focus on a work plan, and that includes kind of where are we going in terms of sustainability, long-term sustainability. And as you heard tonight, private sector dollars and revenue generation is part of that as well. So we're happy to explore more of that, with the partnerships. We really see there is a certain seeding of funding from the public side, and then there's the how do you leverage then the private sector dollars that are in the community. Now, what governance model and make up that then do they deploy? That I think that's a little bit more up to them, but for us, it's kind of how do we seed to help leverage? And just to briefly touch on Mr. Carantonis' point, in our strategic plan, we have an objective about having some kind of future of place summit. So we will look forward to sharing more about that.
The sooner the better.
And it only costs you, no, I'm just joking.
Just name the price.
Yeah, I think it's good to hear that we're thinking about
Great
that.
minds think alike. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I wonder if we've had a period where we needed to be less hands-on, and maybe we're coming into a period where the public part of public-private partnerships is becoming a little bit more critical to our success here. And not to abandon the public-private nature, but to say we have specific things we're trying to get out of this, and we need to make sure we get them.
Yeah. Oh, great. All right. Ms. Cunningham.
I had a question about, it looks like in '23, we had a one-time funding of $180,000 for the 3 smaller partnerships to work together. And I'm just curious how that went, what the result was, and how that might feed into the future.
From our perspective, because the money was a little bit latent in arriving and didn't actually hit our books until April, we're still working on really codifying what exactly we're doing with that. So in the short term, I don't really have a great answer for you.
Gotcha.
Would you like me to talk about it? I think I'm the only partnership person left.
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, it was really helpful funding in the long run. I think one of the issues was when the 3 partnerships collaborated, we were at such different places. LBA was just working on their plan. Columbia Pike has a plan. Clarendon has a plan, but we were just very different places within our life cycle as an organization. And so our needs were different enough that we ended up having to do separate projects. The idea was great, but it was harder to implement than it seemed.
Gotcha. And then I have a question for staff in terms of the proposed funding. Obviously, as Ms. Brown just said, the partnerships are in different places, but what's our thinking about the relative size of the funding and sort of how that changes across the trajectory of the partnership? I think we're showing approximately $145,000 for both Clarendon and LBA, and $410,000 for Columbia Pike.
I may have to defer to people who were here before I was here on the Columbia Pike number, but I think this is a little bit of just kind of our goal in '24 and continuing into '25 was to get LBA and Clarendon Alliance up to a level where this would at least help them hire an executive director position. That we saw as critical to sustainability to help then kind of continue with planning like you heard tonight, whether it's strategic planning or fundraising and things like that. So that was kind of our push last fiscal year, or this fiscal year that we're in currently. But I know there's a history with why Columbia Pike is different, but I can't exactly speak to that.
Madam Chair, it seems like it would benefit us to be available to have a conversation with you about that. Short version is the founding of each of the organizations was different. Should the levels be at the levels that they are, that's a long conversation. It's not particularly unknown to people, but it is still worth asking a thoroughly unbiased person like Ms. Garvey or me or Mr. Carantonis. It's worth.
No, Mr. Carantonis is not unbiased.
Well, no, I was going to get to critiquing the former Columbia Pike Partnership person, but I think for both Ms. Coffey and it's not just me, it's also the manager and Ms. Flanagan Watson, who it's worth having like 30 or 45 minutes where we just try to provide you what we know to talk about these things.
But I would be happy to add just a few words on that.
I wish I had my timer, but yes, go for it.
The the base reason is Columbia Pike was the first partnership with such an investment of its community, of its board of directors, of its staff, et cetera, that created a functioning infrastructure and a really demanding program that could leverage about $3 on the public dollar back then when the appropriation was $80,000. And this is almost 10 years ago. So this is actually our first fully functioning partnership. The other one was actually Roslyn, which converted into BID. The other one was actually Ballston, which converted into the business improvement district. So it's the differential is based on the fact that the business, the enterprise part of this partnership grew strategically and could do both, could leverage public money and leverage private money, and also develop a program that was really working. It's at the same. So Langston is a younger partnership, and Clarendon is a different model of a partnership. I believe that Clarendon should be closer to where Columbia Pike is. But this didn't happen because it had a gap in its development. It's purely developmental. It's really seniority of the enterprise model.
Great. And just one clarifying question. As we move from that sort of 10 to 12 years of planning, should we be investing in the implementation this year a little differently?
Anybody want to answer that question?
You mean Langston?
And Langston, yeah. Sorry.
I'm sure Ms. Brown might have some thoughts there, but I think could be one for follow-up. I don't know if you.
Yeah.
I would be open to follow up on this. In
All
a
right.
positive sense.
Okay. If you have another question after you're okay, that's fine. I'll go to Mr. DeFranchi if you had anything more you wanted to add. I think, okay. Any other questions? All right. So this has been really interesting. So I remember CPRO, and before CPRO, what was it called?
It was actually, no, it was CPRO.
But there was something before CPRO. There was something before that.
Columbia Pike Partnership.
Maybe. Okay. I don't know. Anyway, part of it, and answer your question, I mean, these have somewhat, I think, been grassroots organizations when they first started, and they grow, and everybody's sort of been making it up as they go along. And now we're to a point where we need to get, even more intentional. And I think we're going to be doing that. So it's kind of fun having actually new people at the table that don't remember all of this history and kind of taking a look and saying, why are we doing it this way? So I think that's a good thing. I think with that, we are concluded with this work session. I want to thank everybody for coming. Next work session is Tuesday, March 12 at 3 p.m. We'll be right back here, where we'll hear from the Department of Environmental Services. And for the moment, thank you all. We are adjourned. And it's not even 6.